Hey now, it is the final 580 Sports Talk of the week, of the month, and of the year 2023. Welcome to the show. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That is Dan Lucero. We are here with you for the next 4 hours, and we have a boatload to get to. Chiefs, some K-State, some KU hoops in action against Wichita State coming up tomorrow. We'll go around the NFL. We'll hear from Derrick. We will look back on the year in sports that was 2023. And more importantly than any of that, we will find the 7th annual yearly champion of What Is Wrong With You. The 2023 champion will be crowned in the 4 o'clock hour today. But before we get there, our normal time, 4:25 or so, we'll get to What Is Wrong With You. But first, we've got 4 finalists today. This is going to be like what they call a 4-way dance in professional wrestling, an elimination match. Every hour for the first 3 hours of the show, we will eliminate a finalist. So coming up in about 20 minutes or so, we will eliminate the first one. Then at 3:25, we will eliminate the second one. And then our final 2 from that grouping at 4:25 today, we will pick our yearly champion in What Is Wrong With You.
And of course, we want your voice to be heard. And we want you to be able to vote for your favorite throughout the show today because your vote may come in handy. You may play a role in rescuing the elimination of one of the stories before the championship match, if you will, takes place in the 4 o'clock hour. So we will periodically remind you throughout the program today that our YouTube stream has a chat room window. And our text line is wide open for you, 785-272-9429. And you can tell us which story you think should win What Is Wrong With You 2023. Should it be our January champion, the Robin Hood of Ribeye, a.k.a. the Meat Suitcase? Should it be our May champion, AJG? Should it be the fake firefighter who won in July? Or our October champ, the Wrong Man Waterboarding? If you have a favorite, vote for your favorite. Shout out your favorite on the text line. Shout out your favorite on the YouTube comments. And we will take that into consideration as we go about trimming from 4 to 3 to 2 and ultimately to our 7th annual champ.
I said on the show Wednesday that I was going to make sure we got the full year in review of What Is Wrong With You posted on YouTube. And then I listened to it and I decided I cannot do this because we have music beds in there, and the Universal Music Group would come and knock us off YouTube faster than you could blink. So we did not put it on YouTube. However, yes, you can find it on our website, 580wibw.com.
Next year, I'll remember use stock music instead.
Just use the game show Is It Good music the entire time.
Yeah, use the Is It Good music.
We know that has no rights to it. So we would appreciate if you wanted to go check that out. And again, sticking with us as we find our What Is Wrong With You champion today. Your texts are welcome throughout the show, 785-272-9429. You are also welcome to hit us up on our YouTube stream. It's still up there for now. Over on YouTube, you can find us just by searching 580 Sports Talk. That's the best way to check out all of our video content as well. Not just the live streams, but old episodes of the show, all of our other videos. You can find them on YouTube at 580 Sports Talk. We've got a lot of NFL to get to today. We'll recap K-State coming up in a little bit. We'll do that to lead off the 3 o'clock hour. So if you're tuning in, excited to hear about Avery Johnson and a Pop-Tart that was murdered and eaten alive on live television last night. And I say eaten, like, yeah, duh, you eat a Pop-Tart. If you didn't watch the game and didn't watch the celebration afterwards, you don't really know what that was like.
I don't know about you, Brendan. I have never gone to the ESPN app to watch the trophy ceremony for the bowl.
Literally the first time I had ever done it was Tuesday because I wanted to see them hand the trophy to Jason Bean for KU. Only other time I've ever done it.
Yeah, so they always tell you, right? Like they always say, hey, after the game, because they got to go and show their next bowl game typically, or they got to move on to their next program. But the post-game ceremony, they always put it on the app. So you can watch it on your phone. You can watch it on like your Roku or your Amazon Fire Stick or whatever you got. I've never done that in my life. Like I've never wanted to be like, yes, I must see them hand out the Tax Actigator Bowl trophy. Like I have to see that. Otherwise my bowl viewing experience will not be complete. Friend, yesterday was the first time I had ever done that. because I wanted to see the Pop-Tart get devoured. And the way they did it was even better than I could have ever imagined.
I thought they were just going to all walk up and take bites out of it because I figured it was going to be vertical, but it wasn't. And they murdered it.
They did. Per its wishes.
Yeah, that was
it was born to die, born to be eaten.
Yeah, we'll get to it a little bit more. And it was fun. It was a great presentation of the game.
I love a little transubstantiation with my bowl games.
I don't know how Anish Shroff has gone like probably close to 40 years of existence without ever eating a single Pop. Andre Ware having to essentially explain how to eat a Pop-Tart to Anish Shroff was very funny.
Yeah, Anish had never had a Pop-Tart.
Very weird. How have you never had one? So strange. Anywho, we'll break that game down all coming up in the 3:00 hour. So we will get to the Cats coming up later on in the show. But right now we're getting to the Kansas City Chiefs. They will take on the Cincinnati Bengals. The gauntlet continues for the Chiefs. That'll come up on Sunday, 3:25 kickoff, 2:00 pregame start time right here on your home for the Chiefs in Northeast Kansas, 580 WIBW. Let's get to our keys to the game. Dan, I will have you go first. If the Chiefs are going to pick up a win, snap out of this funk, and finally clinch the AFC West, what will they have to do?
This is something else I'm curious about in a broader sense for Chiefs fans out there. Are you excited to watch the Chiefs on Sunday? Are you kind of starting to approach these games with a little more, I don't know if dread is the right word or too extreme, or maybe it's not. You tell me. Again, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. But I know from my perspective, the Chiefs have been such a joy to watch the last 5 years, and they felt a lot more like a chore this last year because they haven't been very fun to watch. They have not been very exciting. They're not moving the ball efficiently. The joy has seemed to be sapped from watching this football team a little bit. That all being said, they got 2 games left in the regular season to get it right, and an opportunity again to control their own playoff and division destiny. Win on Sunday, and you're the division champs for an 8th straight year, which is a pretty great accomplishment no matter how you slice it. So there's lots on the line, and there's plenty to get fired up about, but it's been a little bit harder to enjoy Chiefs games, certainly over the last month and a half. So curious where the Chiefs kingdom falls on that particular aspect of it. But my first key to this game. So when we think about teams that are defense first football teams who are carried to victory generally by their defense, or the defense is the best part of their team, what do they generally do on offense? They don't take a ton of risks, right?
Nope.
They play it pretty safe. They play some ball control, try and eat up some clock, limit the number of possessions, limit the number of opportunities for the other team's offense, and certainly limit their short fields. I think the Chiefs need to realize that's who they are this year. And if there's no fixing the offense, at least in the short term, then they need to be a much more defensive-minded football team in the short term. And that starts on offense with my number one key: run the dang ball, Andy. The best this offense has looked in the last 2 months, really all season, has been when the running game has been successful and allowed the rest of the offense to find a rhythm. I don't think it's a coincidence the Chiefs are 5-2 this year when they have 91 or more rushing yards. When they go over 90 rushing yards as a team, they are 5-2 this season. Running the ball has been conducive to offensive success. And you're going up against an opponent in Cincinnati who is missing their best interior rush defender. DJ Reader is the guy who is extremely disruptive up front for the Bengals, makes it hard to run on them. He's out. He got hurt a couple of weeks ago. He's on injured reserve. He's out for the rest of the season. So you don't have that interior presence against the run. You should also have a little internal motivation. I know one of your keys is going to speak to this as well. Last week, the Chiefs' offensive line played their worst game of the season. If that doesn't motivate this group to come out and play their best game of the season, especially with a former teammate on the other sideline in Orlando Brown Jr., then I don't know what will motivate this group. But I expect the offensive line to have a bounce-back game, be motivated to knock some heads, and I think that the best way to go about doing that is to get that running game established, whether it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, whether it's the return of Isaiah Pacheco, who was back at practice today, which is an indication that he might be out of the concussion protocol by Sunday. Whoever it is, run it, establish it, get some push, be physically dominant in the trenches again. This team is capable of it. If they do it again against the Bengals, I think that's a key to victory.
Here's a quick note for you. What do you think Orlando Brown's Pro Football Focus grade is this year?
I don't know, but I'm guessing it's not real good.
It's 62.4. 60 is dead even on their grade scale. 60. Orlando Brown's is 62.4, which is about average. That is, by some decent size, the worst of his career. How about that? Pass blocking grade is by miles the worst of his entire career, which is interesting. Very interesting.
Is he having a better year than Donovan Smith?
Ooh, great. Let me pull this up. Give me 1 second here and I'll pull this up. I also wanted to add on too, because I didn't put this into a key to the game, but I do think it means something. Like if you're the Chiefs, and we know the Chiefs listen to the outside noise, because as much as they tell us they don't, they have proven for years that actually, indeed, they do, which is fine.
Yeah, they got
totally fine.
Team full of guys who like to search their names on Twitter and maybe reply or like some spicier tweets. Yeah, they listen. They listen. Like Mahomes, very aware of it, uses it as fuel. We know this. We celebrate this about him, in fact.
By the way, yes, Orlando Brown's grades are still better than Donovan Smith's grades for this year. But Donovan Smith is making like
$9 million a year.
Yeah, a quarter of what Orlando Brown is making for this season. So I do think it is valuable to say into this game, people all around the NFL are bashing you and saying, you know, it's all over. It's never been more over for this team. You're bums. You can't win the big game. You're not a Super Bowl contender this year. You're hearing that from the outside. You're hearing your own fans talk trash about you. Local media, not necessarily us, but we've been, I think, fairly hard on the Chiefs, and like in a fair way, I mean, because they have struggled recently. You're hearing that from people locally, nationally, your fans, whatever. And now you're going up against the Bengals team that, while they have been the closest thing in the last 3 years to your equal, they never shut up, ever. Jamar Chase had no need to speak in the locker room this week. None.
Yeah, he might not even play. It's trending toward he might, but he may not even play on Sunday.
Had no need to speak about the Chiefs' defense, and he did anyway. They never shut up. They are always trying to needle. They're like, I don't mean this exactly the way it sounds, but they're kind of like your little brother in the sense that, like, they're always trying to get a rise out of you. Like, they're always trying to get you to react somehow. And you have to... Like, if you're not motivated to be at your absolute best in this game, it's just not going to happen for this team this year. Not in week 18, not in the wild card round, divisional round, whatever. If you can't get up for this, I just don't think that's probably going to happen for this team. And I already kind of feel like that's probably not going to happen for this team this year. So to the actual key for the game, and I'll go with the one you mentioned and my offensive key first. You got to protect Patrick Mahomes in this game, because against and I'll be fair, an improving defense for the Raiders. Jordan Foote from Sports Illustrated, friend of the show, who we've had on many times, had a stat the other day that I think it's in the last 4 weeks. The Raiders are actually in the top 5 in the NFL in EPA per play. They've actually been really good defensively over the last couple of weeks. Now, full body of work, still not all that great, but they've been a little bit improved. The Bengals also have a good defense. And as we've talked about before, they get better as the year goes on every single year, it seems. Trey Hendrickson, really good player. He has been a very good player for a long time. Now, no DJ Reader. That's a big deal. I think I might say DJ Reader is maybe the most underrated defensive lineman in the NFL. I think he's a really good player, has been for a long time. Myles Murphy, their first-round draft pick, he has gotten a lot better week after week. They're going to be able to get pressure on you, so you've got to protect Patrick Mahomes. Last week, talking about Pro Football Focus, the Chiefs played so poorly, they ended up dropping 5 spots in PFF's weekly offensive line rankings. They're just plummeting down the list week after week. The tackles have really been struggling. Wanye Morris has been struggling, which, you know, thrust into battle as a rookie left tackle filling in late in the season after barely getting any reps early. It's a hard spot to deal with. Last week, he had to defend to protect you against Max Crosby. Like, not an easy job, okay? And I understand that. but find a way to get him a little bit of extra help. Maybe this is the game, and you brought it up earlier this week. When's the last time you saw Mahomes throw a ball in rhythm? 1-2, back of the drop throw. Haven't seen a lot of that. Maybe this is the week where, as opposed to a lot of short throws because they're checkdowns and screens, maybe this is the kind of game where you do a little bit more slant, swing, arrow, glance, quick routes to get the ball out in rhythm, try to help out that offensive line a little bit. Because again, those guys up front, they're fighting for the playoffs right now. The Chiefs are going to get into the postseason. The Bengals are fighting to make the postseason, and they're probably going to have to do a lot because I don't have a whole lot of faith in that Bengals offense to produce. So protect Mahomes, keep him upright, try to make your quarterback's job a little bit easier because the wide receivers have not done that all year long.
So I think that a big part of what they have to do this week in terms of protection is they got to go to some more two tight end stuff. They're better when they run two tight end stuff anyway, but you got to help the tackles. You have to help the tackles because that's where, like, some quarterbacks are bothered more by like up the middle pressure. Famously, Tom Brady did not like to be pressured up the middle. Nope. Like, if you pressured Brady up the middle, that was how you got him out of rhythm. That gave you the best chance to make Tom Brady have trouble. For Mahomes, it's that outside pressure that he feels, I think, a little bit more acutely than maybe the interior pressure. So you've got to give him that extra beat before the pass rush starts to impact him from the outside. So keeping a back into chip, keeping a tight end into chip, whatever they've got to do to make sure that Mahomes has the time, that's what they have to do. And really keep him from feeling that outside rush too early.
I think this Chiefs team, this Chiefs offensive line group is how I should phrase this. I think they've got the potential to be as good as we thought they could be. I think Jawan Taylor is a good player. I love the interior. I think Wanya Morris can be a good player. But again, the intangible stuff we spent so much time on Wednesday talking about. Are you able to stay focused? Are you going to use that outside motivation to your advantage? Because I think those are all things that should help an offensive line. The group of guys on your team, on your offense anyway, who most want to hurt the other guys. That sort of thing should help. We'll see if it actually does. What does key number 2 look like for you?
Key number 2 for me is very simple. You got to tackle, because the best that Cincinnati's offense has looked since Joe Burrow went down and Jake Browning took over is when they have had short passes go for big yards. Joe Mixon on a screen pass, Jamar Chase on a quick out, something quick to a tight end. They're not going to throw the deep ball in the way that they have that has hurt the Chiefs in the past when they played against the Joe Burrow quarterbacked Bengals. So a lot of what they do is going to be quick game. The Chiefs traditionally tackle very well on the outside. Traditionally, that's because they have L'Jarius Sneed in the lineup. It looks unlikely that they're going to have L'Jarius Sneed in the lineup this week. That's not official, but nobody saw him at practice today, and the Chiefs kind of go by the rule, you don't practice, you don't play. So if Sneed didn't make it to practice, I'd be very surprised if he plays on Sunday. That means Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Trent McDuffie, the safeties, Shamari Connor, Mike Edwards, Justin Reed, the linebackers in coverage. You got to tackle. You got to get your guy on the ground. You got to keep those plays from being 20-yard, 30-yard plays. Make the Bengals drive the football. Make Jake Browning put together 12-play, 13-play drives. And tackling includes the running game as well. You can't let Joe Mixon have a big game. They've got to be able to tackle in a way that is sharper than they did against the Raiders on Monday. So tackling, my second key, my biggest key for the defense.
I was going to go with the exact same thing. I diversified it a little bit, but I found this stat for you. Jake Browning is not qualified for NFL leaderboards. He hasn't thrown enough passes this year, hasn't been involved in enough plays per game. If he had been qualified, though, where do you think he would rank in terms of average depth of target? There are 30 qualified quarterbacks. If you made him the 31st, where does he rank?
30th or 29th?
Second last. It would be 30th out of 31. Fun fact, you know who would be last, still behind him?
Mahomes?
Joe Burrow.
Oh, Burrow.
But that's because the first 3 weeks of the year, Burrow couldn't throw the ball more than 4 yards because his leg didn't work.
No, that's the truth. Yeah.
So, no, Browning is not throwing the ball deep. So, how would I address this then? Do everything you can to force him to throw the ball deep. Do exactly what you said. You've got to tackle well in the open field. Eliminate the screen game as best you can. Know that the screen is coming. Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, they want to throw screens. They're going to try to cut block you up front. Linebackers, I'm looking at you, Willie Gay, because he has been, I would say, the best coverage linebacker the Chiefs have. He's never got the best hands of any linebacker the Chiefs have. You've got to be prepared over the middle and in some of those short yardage, even into the intermediate third of the field. You've got to be able to shut down yards after catch after opportunities and get your hands in to try to break up some passes. Force Jake Browning to try to use his arm talent to beat you, because in all likelihood, he's not going to be able to do that because he doesn't have that in him, and that's fine. He's made it work for him so far, but we should have enough tape now to know exactly what you have to do to slow down Jake Browning. I'm going with Chris Jones for my big chief because I think this is one of those classic, want your best players to make big plays in big moments. Go wreck the game. Go be Chris Jones. Go be the guy who wants to make $30 million a year going forward on your next contract. Bengals offensive line is okay. It's not great. This is one of those prove that you're him kind of games. So I'll go with Chris Jones.
I think the Chiefs running game is going to be so vital to their success. I don't think the Chiefs need to score 30 to win this game. I think they can probably win it in the 20s. And if they're going to get there, I think it's going to start with establishing the run and taking care of the football. So if Isaiah Pacheco plays, it's him. This is a bit of a cop-out. Even if Pacheco doesn't play, I think there's a chance for Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be productive if he gets running back number 1 snaps. So either of those two guys, the Chiefs running backs, those are my big Chiefs.
Score prediction for the game. I'm not even putting this one in the 20s. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win because I think they're the better team. I don't trust Jake Browning, but also it's hard to really trust the Chiefs at this point. Chiefs 16, Bengals 15. Under, Bengals cover, Chiefs win.
It is amazing to me that the Chiefs are favored by 6.5 points.
It's a lot
in this game. Like, what evidence have you seen that suggests the Chiefs can beat anybody by a touchdown? Like, I know they just did it to the Patriots, but they're the Patriots. Like, the Bengals have played better football, certainly, than the Patriots have the last couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a much closer game than that spread will indicate, but I do think the Chiefs pull it out 20-17.
Let us know your thoughts on the game, your predictions. Do the Chiefs get it done and finally win the division title? Let us know either on the text line 785-272-9429 or hit us up on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. Coming up next, our first elimination round in the finals of the 2023 What Is Wrong With You Fail 4. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. This is maybe the most important day of the year on 580 Sports Talk. It is our final show of 2023, and that means we are crowning our 7th annual What Is Wrong With You yearly champion. We whittled down from 12 monthly winners, our 12 semifinalists on Wednesday, down to our 4 finalists. We have them here today, and we will now, 3 times this show, eliminate one of them. So this hour, we'll go from 4 to 3 finalists. Next hour at this same time, we'll go from 3 to 2, and then we will pick our champion from the final 2 coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. The way we're going to do this, we've got 4 here. Dan and I are each going to save one of them. We've got our votes in. We are going to save and guarantee one story that advances on to the second elimination round here on the final day of the What Is Wrong With You Fail 4. And then we will debate which stories will be eliminated from there. So, Dan, I will let you go first. From our 4 finalists, the Robin Hood of Ribeye, a.k.a. the Meat Suitcase, AJG, a jumbo genital story, the fake firefighter from California, or the wrong man waterboarding, which story would you like to save?
So I've been digging deep into all 4 of these stories today, just digging a little bit deeper, really kind of sussing out who I think has the advantage, who really belongs up in those rafters as our 7th What Is Wrong With You champion. And that led me to the website santamuertefire.org, which is still on the internet as we speak. You can go and find the official web home of the Santa Muerte Fire Department, serving with courage, integrity, and professionalism. Now, I was a little curious. So I Googled the Topeka Fire Department.
Uh-huh.
They don't have their own website. Their website is part of the city's website, right? With some links and some references and things like that. Little information about the fire department. Same goes for the city of Topeka, Indiana, by the way, which also popped up when you Google Topeka Fire Department. There is a Topeka, Indiana, as it happens. And their fire department webpage is also part of the city's website. Not so the Santa Muerte Fire Department, which again is not real.
It's not real.
Their website stands alone. The Santa Muerte Fire Department preserves life and property, advocates public safety and commitment to fire prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery as a fire life safety provider. There are links to resources, including smoke alarm safety, earthquake alerts, and a link to the American Red Cross. There is a link to a volunteer form that you can fill out and volunteer to be part of the Santa Muerte Fire Department, which, again, does not exist.
Nope.
There is also an About Us page with a paragraph that's about 4 long. Is there a fire chief listed here? No.
Nope.
Is there anything about the size of the staff, when it was founded, what part of California it might serve? Nope. Just the Santa Muerte Volunteer Fire Department. And there's a Contact Us page too, but as we're aware, the address that is given, it's in a parking lot. There's a Rally's over here, Planet Fitness, Harbor Freight. There's a Boot Barn, UPS store.
Nice.
Yeah, doesn't really exist. But hey, feel free to fill out the contact form and leave them a nice little message for this fire department that I want to reiterate one more time does not exist.
Can we also add that there's a tab on the website for report a fire?
Yes.
Who is going, wait, I got to go online. I got to get to the website to report our fire.
Yeah, this takes you to the fire.ca.gov and a page that is no longer exists, cannot be found. So, 42-year-old Andrew DeBoer did the absolute most in creating a fire department that did not exist, including going through the trouble of creating a very, very serious and authentic-looking website for it. He wanted to be a firefighter so bad. Why? We don't have any idea. Was it the power? Was it the access to all the long guns? Was it the ability to put a siren in his car? Was it to meet girls? No idea. No idea what his motives could have been, but he did the most. And for that reason, I am rescuing the fake firefighter. He advances to our next elimination round.
All right, so the fake firefighter is on. Our July champion. That is an all-time story. To meet girls. That's very funny.
Hey, your guess is as good as mine, right?
is my turn to save a story. And I'm going to boil this down to a very simple, granular explanation. This man stole meat from Walmart, tried to hide it in his suitcase, told police that he does this all the time, and has been arrested 70 times in his life. He's only 62 years old. He's been arrested more than once per year over the course of his life. He filled a suitcase with meat, beef liver, ground beef, chuck roast, ribs, various cuts of steaks, everything you could find. Just jammed it in a suitcase.
Yeah.
He would have taken the whole cart if he could have.
Yeah, the cart quit working on him, so he just threw it in a suitcase, and whatever he couldn't throw in the suitcase, he just toss.
It is the funniest visual we have ever had.
By far.
It is just so outrageous. Like, this is a stand-up bit about, like, the old guy in your small town who steals meat from Walmart. Like, that's what this sounds like. I think it is so funny, I have to keep it. The meat suitcase, the Robin Hood of ribeye, it is saved by me.
Okay.
So that one advances. So with that, we have two more monthly winners. One of them will not be going on to the 3 o'clock hour. We have AJG, the woman who sued her boss for harassment and accused him of signing his email with a jumbo genital, not just his initials, Mr. Alexander J. Galandris. And we also have the wrong man waterboarding, the three idiots from South Florida who tried to kidnap someone in the town of Plantation, kidnapped the wrong guy, tortured him, including waterboarding, then brought him back to the original scene of the kidnapping and said, all right, we're taking your phone. Go find your coworker so we can take him. And he took someone else's phone and called the police.
Called a bomb threat.
Called in a bomb threat.
Yeah, called in a bomb threat so police would get there faster.
Yeah.
Which was good thinking on the fly.
Very good thinking.
I don't know that my head would be so clear after getting waterboarded.
Having someone threaten to murder me with a drill.
Man, just imagine. You're just like a guy. You're settled in for your evening. You put in a shift. Now you're at home. You got your lazy pants on. Maybe you got a hungry man in the microwave.
I want a Swanson dinner.
Beer hitting your hand on a Friday like Molnir. Shout out to Trill Withers. You're just looking forward to having a chill night. And then you're kidnapped in a case of mistaken identity. I'm voting for the wrong man to advance, the wrong man waterboarding to advance over HAG. I just love the various elements of this story. The bumbling kidnappers who could not even pick out who it was they actually wanted to kidnap. What were they trying to accomplish with this kidnapping? Were they looking for money? Were they looking for information? They just want to hurt somebody? We don't have any idea. We don't have any idea what their motives were here. But maybe, just maybe, they should have been had a little more clarity of purpose, and that could have led them to the right person to do all of these things too. And then, once you realize you got the wrong guy, you've tossed his cell phone, you've roughed him up probably a little bit. The response wasn't, oh man, our bad. Hey, is there anything we can do to smooth this over? Is there anything that we can do to make it to where, I don't know, we don't go to prison? No, they waterboarded him. They put a drill to his head. An electric drill. No, thank you.
Yeah, I think I've got to go with that one, too. I love AJG. I love how stupid this lawsuit is and how dumb this woman is to believe that anyone would believe her. But it does kind of boil down to these other guys were insane and tried to kill or threatened to kill someone with a drill bit to the dome. And that's not code for anything. They literally tried to put an electric drill to his skull. This woman just like the dumbest lawsuit I can ever imagine. It's funny, outrageously funny, and deserving of being a finalist.
Yes.
These people waterboarded the wrong guy.
Yes, they did a waterboarding.
That advances on. We say goodbye to our maid champion, a jumbo genital, AJG, an all-time great, an all-time idiot.
From Paul in the YouTube comments, RIP to AJG, a true Cinderella run, alas, not meant to be.
Yeah, no, that's St. Peter's. That's, George Mason, all-time great run.
A great run.
Yeah.
We'll remember it fondly. It will live long in the memory. That'll be one like 2-3 years down the road. We'll bring hey, remember AJG? Wasn't that hilarious? And people will be like, yeah, that was. But
Jumbo
alas,
genital.
we can only put one jersey in the rafters.
We only can. And this time, advancing on to our second round of elimination will be the Wrongman Waterboarding. Those are our three finalists: Wrongman Waterboarding, Fake Firefighter, the Robin Hood of Ribeye that advanced. We'll get to our next elimination in the 3 o'clock hour. Don't forget that What Is Wrong With You in our Tournament of Failed Champions is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, which saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. We'll go around the NFL and look ahead to a big Week 17 next on 580 Sports Talk. Got some afternoon college football bowl game action going on. In fact, right now during this edition of 580 Sports Talk, Brendan and Dan here with you. Hi. Hey, how are you? Thanks for hanging out with us today. The Liberty Bowl just started. Memphis is already up on Iowa State by a 6-0 margin. That score coming in the first minute and a half of the contest. Meanwhile, the Gator Bowl just went final. It was a banger. Clemson with a touchdown with just 17 seconds left to knock off Kentucky. 17 straight points, in fact, at one point in that game for Clemson to put them ahead of Kentucky in a wild fourth quarter. That also featured, I believe the final number was 41 points, 4 turnovers, and 5 lead changes in one quarter. Awesome stuff. Cotton Bowl coming up tonight, Missouri versus Ohio State. The Sun Bowl also going on right now. That's Notre Dame versus Oregon State. We'll update you on some of those scores coming up in headlines later on today. Around the NFL this weekend, though, we had one game last night. I will ask you the question that most people are not brave enough to ask. Is Joe Flacco actually good? Not just like, hey, Jake Browning had a nice couple of weeks, and hey, Josh Dobbs was good for like 6 quarters. No, is Joe Flacco actually good?
He's always been a great play-action quarterback, and the Browns are just play-actioning teams to death. They play-actioned the Jets into oblivion last night. And that's a good Jets defense. In fact, it was the second best defense in the NFL against the pass. And Joe Flacco threw for almost 300 yards and a half against that team. I think he might actually be good, man. Like in this setting, I think he is. And I think what we're seeing here and what we're seeing across the league this year, where we've had, I think it's 61 starting quarterbacks so far this season, 61 different starting quarterbacks. That means like we're almost averaging 2 per team, which is wild.
Yeah.
When you consider how many teams haven't had to change their starting quarterback. most of the guys who get to the NFL have like some real ability, right? Real arm talent, real comfort within certain structure or out of structure. And your responsibility, if you are the coach or you are the coordinator for that team, and that is your quarterback, is you have to give them the structure, give them the environment, give them whatever it needs, whatever they need to succeed. And you will find that many of them, particularly one who has a Super Bowl MVP on his resume. This is not like Joe Flacco's some bum. Joe Flacco is not just the guy we saw go 3-17 as a starter with the Broncos and the Jets from 2019 to 2022. That's not all Joe Flacco is. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl MVP. Joe Flacco was consistently good for a long time in Baltimore in a system he was comfortable with an offensive coordinator that knew his strengths and played to his strengths. And now he's in a spot where they are playing to his strength in Cleveland, and he is succeeding behind a patchwork offensive line. Last night, without his number one receiver, Amari Cooper, didn't matter. Elijah Moore gets hurt, didn't matter. It's remarkable what can happen when you put these guys in good positions to succeed. And that's what we're seeing with Joe Flacco. And it's pretty cool to see him enjoy it because I said, you agreed with me. We watched Joe Flacco start games for the Broncos in 2019. He looked cooked.
Yep.
He looked absolutely toast.
And more of the same again with the Jets the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I think now we're seeing that maybe he kind of wondered if he was too. And getting this opportunity and succeeding with this opportunity, I think Joe Flacco's about as surprised as many of us that it's going this well, that he's playing this well, that he has this opportunity with a team that, I mean, never mind, oh man, they're going to be a scary number 5 seed. They could get the 1 seed, man. Yeah. It's not out of the question. If Baltimore loses to Miami, they're playing for the 1 seed potentially on the final weekend of the season. So, yes, I do think that Joe Flacco in this instance, in this scenario, with this offense, with this coach, Kevin Stefanski, who I think is the coach of the year in the NFL, I think he is actually good. Now, elite, that's not a conversation I care to have anymore.
It's funny that Joe Flacco is at his best exclusively when he's a cult hero. Like coming in and all he had to do was not be absolutely horrendous and the Browns probably would have been okay because they've got some nice weapons offensively. They've got a decent offensive line, even though it's banged up, and they've got a really dang good defense. And we remember his Super Bowl run. I mean, that was the whole thing is like, how is this man doing this? It was the most preposterous quarterback run through a Super Bowl of all time. Still to this day of all time. He thrives when he is a cult hero and frankly, no other time. It does make me wonder though, and he was staying ready. I'm sure he'd been working out and staying loose as best as he could. I'm wondering if not being with a team and going through the grind of camp and off-season workouts and the first, whatever it was, 11 weeks of the season or something, I wonder if that helped keep him fresh for now. Because he had been with teams full time for the last several years, had been traded a couple of times, had played a handful of games. He had started 17 games between 2019 and 2022. He went 3-14 as a starter. He's 4-1 this year. I do wonder if he was just fresher than he had been. He played a lot of football. I mean, with the with the Ravens, he had started every single game from 2008 through 2014, missed 6 games in 15, but started all the ones he played, then played every single game the next 2 years. I mean, he's played a lot of football. He's never been a great athlete. He's a bigger dude. I wonder if he's just fresh for the first time, probably since that famous contract year when he won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, very, very possible.
I wonder if that's been the biggest difference maker for him. This weekend, biggest game of the weekend, I think, clearly. And I don't even think. I mean, it's very obvious it's the biggest game of the weekend. Joe Flacco's former team, the Ravens, they're taking on the Dolphins. Massive game in the AFC. Ravens will lock up the number 1 seed in the postseason in the AFC if they get the win there. Dolphins still have a chance if they win. Outside of that one, because that's the easy pick, best game of the weekend is what?
Might be tomorrow night, Detroit-Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that's a game where Dallas, we know, plays better at home, but they are in need of a bounce-back performance regardless of where it is played. Detroit typically better at home, but that just means they're better indoors, and they're going to be indoors against Dallas. So that's a Cowboy team that's trying to right the ship just a little bit, and a Detroit team that could use another big win. So I think that's going to be a really entertaining game Saturday night. A lot of points.
Just became official as if we didn't. I think this was probably expected, but Trevor Lawrence, by the way, out this weekend. He is not going to play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are taking on Carolina, I believe.
Yes.
So they should win anyway, but that's significant. CJ Beathard is not Trevor Lawrence. For everything about Trevor Lawrence, he's certainly better than CJ Beathard. I'll go with the team I've been kind of bandwagoning throughout the year. I think Tampa Bay versus New Orleans is a big game. That one is, I think, going to decide the NFC South if the Buccaneers end up winning it, if I'm not mistaken. So that game's definitely got some oomph to it. Outside of that, not a crazy weekend slate of games. Chiefs-Bengals is obviously a big one for both of those teams. Bengals are probably in the playoffs for sure if they get the win. Chiefs are just trying to find any momentum. Vikings-Packers is effectively an elimination game for those two teams. That's a pretty big game on Sunday night, even though neither has a great record. You also end up with, where was the other game that I thought had some intrigue to it? I'm looking at the list of games right here.
Pittsburgh-Seattle's
pretty. Yes, there's one. Thank you.
Pittsburgh-Seattle's a big one for both of those teams' playoff hopes. Both teams need a win. That game in Seattle. Does Mason Rudolph have 2 weeks of magic left in him, or was it simply a bit of a pre-Christmas miracle the way he played on Christmas Eve?
Yeah, man, I'm not going to bet on that. I'm not going to put any money on that. But also, how do you trust Mason Rudolph? I can't. No way I can't.
I've seen Mason Rudolph's movies. Like I've seen him play. Like it was great that he had the success that he had. A lot of it was just throw it up there, and George Pickens is down there somewhere.
Yeah. So here's how the playoff window shakes out for the AFC. Ravens, Dolphins, they're both in. They're your top 2 seeds. Again, if Baltimore wins on Sunday, they will be the number 1 seed. The Dolphins, though, still have a chance. In fact, the Dolphins would be the number 1 seed if they win, because they will have the same record and would have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So that's worth keeping an eye on. Chiefs are currently 3rd, still trying to win their division. The Jacksonville Jaguars are scrambling to try to stay on top of the AFC South. They do have the tiebreaker over the 2 teams behind them, the Colts and the Texans.
For the record, if you were curious, this morning the line for that game was 6 points. Jacksonville laying 6. With the news that Lawrence is out, that line has dropped nearly by half. It is now 3.5.
Wow. Interesting.
So that's the Trevor Lawrence effect.
I think I might take that for Jacksonville. I might take them laying 3.5. I like Bryce Young. Dog, you don't get to face Joe Barry defenses every week like you did on Christmas Eve. So I think I might still go with Jacksonville, especially with fewer points they're laying in that one. Your current wild cards, Browns, they've locked into a playoff spot. The Bills are your 6th seed right now. The Colts are your 7. You've got 4 teams that are 8-7. Colts, Texans, Steelers, and Bengals all fighting for the spots, that last spot in the AFC, and in that order currently. The NFC, the Rams, Seahawks are both 8-7. Those are your 6 and 7 seeds right now. Vikings, Falcons, Packers, Saints are all 7 and 8. The Falcons have the tiebreaker over the Packers because they won head-to-head. The Falcons this weekend, they are taking on the Bears, so that game has a weird amount of interest in it. The Bears are somehow not eliminated yet. They are technically still alive for the postseason, so I guess that's a game with playoff implications, if you want to call it that. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk today, we've got plenty of K-State football to get to. Wildcats won in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and what a bowl it was. A bowl to never be forgotten coming up. Last night, that was the game. We'll talk about it coming up to lead off the 3 o'clock hour. Some thoughts on Avery Johnson and his first full game of action. I will tease it like this. I saw more good than bad from Avery Johnson. I mean, he won game's most outstanding player honor. I mean, obviously, he did something pretty dang well in the game. I saw more good than bad. Certainly some things that needed to be cleaned up. We'll break down the entire game. We'll get to our second elimination in our tournament of failed champions for What Is Wrong With You. And we will hear from Matt Derrick for our final Chiefs Insider of calendar year 2023. We'll still take your text. Would love to know what you think about Chiefs versus Bengals coming up on Sunday afternoon. Send us your score predictions either on the text line 785-272-9429, or you can drop us a line on our YouTube feed. Our channel is called 580 Sports Talk, live streaming the show on video over there right now. Let's get to a break for the news. We'll come on back with the 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Plenty to get to in this second hour of the show. It is our final show of the calendar year. No show today, or well, obviously we have a show today. No show over the next 2 days as it's the weekend, and then we are also going to take New Year's Day off. We get that holiday. We're going to spend it with our family, loved ones, or maybe for some people nursing a hangover. I will not name names. I'm just kidding here, probably. Well, I don't know what you're going to do. Are you going to do anything wild for New Year's Eve?
No, probably not.
Yeah. Are you going to stay up?
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
I know Abby is early to bed. Is she going to stay up for midnight with you?
That's a good question. I think she will.
Okay.
I think she will. She's been building up the stamina. We were able to we watched TV a little later than we typically do last night. So yeah, she's on that winter break. She's a teacher and she's on winter break. So she always jokes that she builds up her stamina to stay up late and sleep in, and then when she finally gets there, they got to go back. So we'll see. We'll see. The last couple of years we've made it together.
All right.
So I'm assuming we'll do the same, but she might get a nap in between, and I'm not gonna lie, I might too. We'll see. We might be a little bit of a 3 o'clock slump on New Year's Day.
Hey, it happens. Yeah, I mean, get it in before or like a quick power one during halftime of the Rose Bowl or something. Yeah, get that in. You're all taken care of. You guys ever do anything like, I don't know, like big New Year's blowout kind of thing? Or?
No, typically we've gone out to dinner, like New Year's Eve night. We'll go out to dinner, myself, my wife, her sister, and her husband, and then my wife's parents. They all live in town, and we've gone out to dinner and then kind of hung out at our house until people go home. And usually that happens before midnight. But my sister, brother-in-law had a baby earlier this year, so now they're on baby time, so probably not going to have any of that with them. Everybody, we're still trying to hash it out. Like it's going to look really different moving forward, so we're just trying to hash it out.
Yeah, last year I was down in Oklahoma City in Edmond for Washburn basketball because the Ichabod men and women played on New Year's Eve, and Abby just came down with me, and we just said, hey, let's just stick around and see what OKC is to offer. We found a bar, watched the playoff games at a bar and the college football playoff games, and stayed out till midnight. It was fun. There was dancing, music, whatever. Then we went back and just kind of sat in the hotel and thought, all right, well,
Happy New Year.
That's New Year's, I guess. I don't know. I find New Year's Eve to be one of the more overrated holiday events of the year. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, we had a texter here who agrees with you from the 785. No interest in being out on amateur night number 1 of the year. That's true.
Wow.
That's true. It's
cooked.
It's people who don't party and go out and party. Yeah.
That's fair.
That's a good argument.
Yeah. My best friend, his birthday is on New Year's Eve. So when we were growing up, and even during college, like, we always had parties at his house on New Year's Eve. So I spent most of my time there in their basement anyway. Like it was fun, but it was like not out of the ordinary at all. We just had sparkling apple cider with us and played video games instead of just video games. That's pretty much how I always celebrated growing up. So yeah, it is what it is. I'm staying up late anyway. I'll be up till 2 a.m. regardless.
That's true.
It doesn't change a whole lot for me. Well, we'll get to K-State here in just a moment. We've got our second What Is Wrong With You elimination of our Fail 4 today. And we will hear from Matt Derrick coming up a little bit later on this hour. Plus your texts, 785-272-9429. Plus comments on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of our YouTube channel. From Mark, we've got a prediction for the game. He's got Chiefs 20, Bengals 17. Same prediction that Dan has.
Yeah.
Also, this from Vance on YouTube says, I never go anywhere on New Year's Eve. It's a tradition that I make a big Cajun dinner that night and some family stops by. Hey, that sounds pretty good.
That's a pretty good tradition. I can get down with that tradition.
I requested my wife make these really good fried shrimp that she makes. Requested those for New Year's Eve this year. So that's my big celebration for the year. All right, let's get to the Pop-Tarts Bowl from last night. K-State knocks off North Carolina State. That game really had everything. You had some cool defensive plays. You had some really bad defensive plays from both teams. You had 2 fake punts that both worked. And
one of them went for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. That was pretty sick. The number one guy who I felt bad for in the game was Seth Porter because he made a couple of mistakes early, and then he had a punt return touchdown that got called back for a very weak block in the back call.
Yeah, like I get, like they on the broadcast, and I know on Twitter a lot of people didn't like that flag. I get why they threw it. Like I do.
The one replay where they showed it from the punter point of view behind the play, and I don't know which official threw it. From that angle, it looked clearly like a block in the back, so I could understand it. From the broadcast angle, not so much, but it is what it is. You still won, so in the long run,
right, all's well that ends well.
And the big story of the day, more so than the Pop-Tart presentation.
We'll get to that.
We will. Avery Johnson. And I thought, and I'm curious what you thought about his performance, because I thought, and he won most outstanding player of the game, which good for him, deserved. Had, what was it? Ended up being 3 touchdown passes? Or was
two touchdown passes.
2 touchdown passes
ran
and a
for
run.
1. Yeah.
Thank you. He looked good. I thought the most impressive part of the game, because I don't want to say the knock. He was an Elite 11 recruit, and he a big deal. But the wonder was, okay, well, how good is he as a thrower? Because a lot of what we saw from him during the year was not being asked to throw all that much. It was QB power. It was a lot of run things. It was a very run-heavy package when he was out there. And I thought the best thing he showed, the way he was working through his reads, the way he was going through his progressions, and you can watch it. You don't have to be super football savant to always know when a guy is trying to go through his progressions, try to find the open target. Just pay attention. You can usually watch a quarterback's head, and if you're looking, okay, here, back to the first, go, you can say, okay, yes, he went through all of his progressions right there. A lot of quarterbacks, even at the pro level, can't do that. I thought he looked like a seasoned veteran in that regard. The way he was going through progressions, the way he was finding the open man, reading those things properly. I was incredibly impressed watching him do that. Now, the actual accuracy of his throws, I think, is some work that can be done. That's fine. True freshman, things you can work on. He's young enough. That can be fixed. Not a problem there. That's, the one major positive and the one critique I would have. But overall, I was pretty impressed for his first career start against a good defense. That is a very good defense from North Carolina State.
Yeah, one of the best in the country, even without the Bednarik and Butkus Award winner Peyton Wilson in the middle. And they had a bunch of other guys who didn't opt out, could have, didn't. And it makes for a good game. Like, we're going to have some games here in the next couple of days that are pretty marred by the opt-outs. Georgia, Florida State in particular is one that is just going to be unrecognizable based on what we saw from those teams in the regular season. But both of these teams had a lot of guys who could have opted out that didn't, and I think that raises the level of play in a bowl game, which I was glad for. I'm glad that Avery Johnson got to play a game behind a really good offensive line, rather than try and play one behind a patchwork offensive line where it would have been really hard to evaluate him. And I'm glad he got to play against a good defense that was, again, their most important piece was not there, but it was mostly intact other than that. So I think that was positive. The things that stood out to me from Avery Johnson, number one, knowing when to fold him as a quarterback, knowing when, hey, there's nothing here, and I could try and scramble around, and maybe I'll get a yard, or maybe I'll lose 7, but the pass rush is here, and I'm rolling to the sideline. There's just nothing on. I'm just going to turf this. I'm just going to get rid of it, get it out to the sideline, and live to play another down. A lot of young quarterbacks, even some veteran quarterbacks, struggle with knowing when to try and make something happen and knowing when there is no play to be made here. Let's just live to fight another down. He seems to have a really high level understanding of that, even as a young quarterback. Now, it hurts his completion percentage. He had up 14 of 31 through the air, below 50%. But number one, his receivers could have helped him out, caught a couple of passes that were catchable but weren't caught. And the other thing, too, is he threw a lot of plays out of bounds that didn't develop. And there were a lot of times this year where passing concepts didn't develop because the K-State wide receiver room is not particularly exceptional. There were times when those guys had trouble getting open. That problem exacerbated by no Ben Sinnott. So knowing when to fold him, knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing when to live to fight another down, that really impressed me with regard to Johnson. He made a lot of different kinds of throws. He made throws on the run. And at the very end, on the final drive of the game, NC State's got 2 timeouts left with about 2:40 to go. And K-State's up by 2. And a touchdown ends the game for all intents and purposes. And you can do one of two things down there. You can decide that the priority is whatever we do, we're going to make North Carolina State use their timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most important thing to us. Or you can decide we're going to score a touchdown. We're going to win the game with a touchdown. And when Kansas State made the decision, they were going to win the game with a touchdown. They put the ball in Avery Johnson's hands, and they put him in a situation where Jace Brown was the guy, the target number one on the play. It's a pretty simple back shoulder seam throw in the end zone. And Avery Johnson and Jace Brown, both freshmen, executed it to perfection for what was effectively the game-ending touchdown. Shows you how well regarded Johnson is by his coaches, by Connor Riley, who was calling the plays last night, that they said, we trust you're not going to make a mistake if you put it in the air. We trust this play is going to win the game. Because the upshot is, you don't, or the downside rather, is if you don't complete that pass, is you save North Carolina State a timeout. And you make it that much more likely that NC State can drive and maybe win the game with a touchdown of their own.
Mm-hmm.
But for K-State to say, nah, we're just going to win it here. We'll win it here with this guy. We'll win it here with these two freshmen. I thought that was really impressive. And the last thing was his 19-yard touchdown run.
Yeah.
That ain't in the playbook. Like, you can't put that in the playbook. You can't coach that. That's just Avery Johnson making a play. And his ability to do that in a game where it was clear they didn't want to run him a lot, because there wasn't a plan B if he took a big hit and got hurt. And he's going to have to get a little stronger and fill out a little bit as he gets older. Naturally, happens to all of us. But his ability to make a play like that, the speed, the acceleration, the agility, it was all on display on that touchdown run. That is a rare play. That is the play that makes you think this is a guy who can lead you to some pretty exciting places if you're K-State. All in all, I think you left with no doubt in your mind. He's that guy. He's the dude. He is exactly who we thought he was going to be, and we can set the bar pretty high for what he can accomplish in 2024 and beyond.
What did you think of Connor Riley and the play calling in general for K-State? I saw kind of a surprising amount of consternation, I thought, from some Kansas State fans. I saw some who were totally fine with it. Look, it's his first time calling plays at this level. It was a new experience with a quarterback making his first career start with a number of guys on both sides of the ball who you've had before and who weren't there for the game. Like, I thought it was fine. I was a little surprised by some, and again, not every K-State fan I saw acted like this, but I did see some who were opposed to what they saw play calling wise, and I was kind of surprised by that. I thought he did fine.
It looked like the K-State offense. Like, it looked like what they were doing all year and what they've tried to accomplish all year. The passing concepts were pretty similar. The running game concepts were pretty similar. There was maybe a little less quarterback run than you might have anticipated, like designed quarterback run. But again, you didn't have really a backup quarterback. Like, your priority in this game was to keep Avery Johnson healthy and upright and in the game for every snap. And that was more important than busting out all your quarterback run stuff in the playbook. If there is something to criticize for Connor Riley, they kind of got a little conservative, I thought, in the second half. First down run was pretty much an automatic. The one time they didn't do that, they picked up a big chunk on first down, but then they went 3 and out after that. But there were a lot of scenarios where in that second half, K-State was getting themselves behind the sticks because North Carolina State had made an adjustment. They were playing the run better on first down, and they were stopping DJ Giddens for no gain or hitting him behind the line. So K-State's in 2nd and 11, 3rd and 10, a lot more often than they were in the first half. And that's a tough spot for any quarterback, never mind one who's making his first start. So I might have been a little more varied on first down. I understand, like, when you have the big lead, maybe you default to playing conservative. When your background is in offensive line play, you default to thinking, well, we can get 3 on first down. We can get 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and we'll stay on schedule that way. Maybe a little late to adjust there, but I thought, like, schematically, it looked like Kansas State's offense. Like, I think if Connor Riley gets the job, I don't think all of a sudden K-State's offense is going to be unrecognizable next year. I thought he did fine for his first time. And if he gets the job, if that's the guy that Chris Kleiman trusts, that wouldn't surprise me, and I wouldn't be disappointed.
All right, well, we've got to get out of here for a break pretty quickly because we've got a bunch to get to this hour. But they ate a Pop-Tart And that is about the worst way you could possibly describe what happened. The whole presentation of the game was awesome.
Even describe what happened? Like, if you tried to describe this to somebody who doesn't follow college football, didn't watch the game last night, they would think you were insane.
Yeah,
so there's this game sponsored by Pop-Tarts, and their mascot was a big Pop-Tart. And after the game, he lowered himself into a giant toaster, and what popped out was a giant edible Pop-Tart that the players then ate with their bare hands, tore apart and ate with their bare hands. And the idea was that was supposed to be the Pop-Tart mascot living his dream of being toasted and consumed by the winning team of the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
It was very funny, and I enjoyed all of it. But as time has gone on, and as much as I've seen the after video or the shot after all the players had taken their handful of Pop-Tart that they scooped off of the mascot, I was right in the first place. It is very creepy they gave it a personality. There was just an eye left, a fake Pop-Tart eye on the corpse, the cadaver of the Pop-Tart. It made it way too realistic for me.
Didn't care for that. I wish it had come out without a face.
Yes.
To be completely honest. But on the flip side, would it have been believable that that was the same mascot? No. So you kind of had to keep the face.
Yeah.
During the game, the Pop-Tart was having the time of his life. He was dancing with the head officials, smacked him on the backside at one point.
Yeah.
He was chasing field goals with like a fishing net, try and scoop up the football. Like, nobody had a better night than the guy in the Pop-Tart mascot. Like, I don't know what they paid him for his mascot duties, but it wasn't enough. That guy was incredible. That was a tremendous, that was an achievement in the field of mascotting that should be, I think, celebrated.
Roger Sherman, who has worked for a bunch of different sports media companies, including The Ringer, he's done a thing all year where he has just traveled around to as many college football games as he could possibly go to see as many teams and stadiums as he could. And he was there last night. And he tweeted a picture and said, I went up to the handler for the Pop-Tart mascot and said, is it offensive if I eat, or inappropriate if I eat a Pop-Tart in front of the mascot? And the handler yelled back at him, no, that's his dream. And then the mascot himself took the Pop-Tart and like shoved it in Roger Sherman's face. That's what we were dealing with last night. But I like it should be goofy and weird. Like, we gave away free Bloomin' Onions and coconut shrimp for years.
Yeah.
This was the spiritual successor to that, even if it's a different bowl game itself.
It's incredible how far we've gone. And the mascots, or the games rather, with obvious food tie-ins have the easiest route to doing something like this. Like, what's the Tax Slayer Bowl going to do? Like, you can't eat an accountant.
I saw someone tweet today they're going to kill an accountant after the game.
Like, you can't like eat a W-2, like a giant W-2. That doesn't really work. But the ones with food tie-ins at least have kind of embraced the absurdity of what it is that's going on here. So that's how you have cold brew coffee getting dumped on a coach at the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. That's how you have the mayo dump that occurs at the Duke's Mayo Bowl. You should embrace the absurdity and the silliness of this, because absurd and silly at heart, that's what these games are about. That's what sports are about. They're a little bit absurd. They're a little bit silly. College football has always kind of embraced that tradition and the silliness of the tradition. And you should embrace things like this and embrace the opportunity to eat what was a living mascot and is now a living sacrifice. Eat a Pop-Tart.
I saw today that they had spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.1 million on branding and the naming rights and advertising and everything for the game. And I don't know how they calculate this, but they got over $12 million in media and social media exposure from the game. That's a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah, no kidding. Any like food company, any manufacturer of food should be looking into sponsoring a bowl game, like, because the tie-in is pretty natural. Yeah. Now, not everybody loves it. We have two different comments here on the YouTube page. One from John, who says the Mayo Bowl was the most disgusting game I've ever watched, with the puking face emoji. And Vance agreeing with him, saying the mayo dump is disgusting.
It is disgusting.
It is.
It is the devil's condiment.
Listen, man, I can't argue with, like, I'm not anti-mayo though. Like, I'm not so like virulently anti-mayo as you, where you can't like stand to be around it. Like, I can live with it. I'm not gonna like. There was the silent reporter dipped some fries in it while like it was pooling around
Yeah,
Neil
scoop
Brown's
some off
feet.
of Neil Brown's head.
Yeah. Ate some French fries with mayo. Yeah, not me. No thanks. But no.
It works though. That stuff works.
And you're talking about it and you're aware of Duke's mayo. Like I didn't really understand there to be a whole lot of different choices when it came to my mayonnaise purchasing. But now when I go to the store and I see Duke's and I think, oh yeah, that's what they dumped on Neil Brown this year.
We've got to get to a timeout. We'll get to our second What Is Wrong With You elimination of our Fail 4 next, and we'll talk to Matt Derrick later on this hour, our Chiefs insider. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk.
What the hell?
We are down to 3 finalists in our What Is Wrong With You 2023 Tournament of Failed Champions. The Fail 4 is how we began today. We eliminated, during our first hour, the AJG story, a jumbo genital, our May winner from across the pond. We had a lot of stories from overseas this year and a lot from England in particular. But our remaining international story was eliminated earlier on today. So we are left with 3 finalists. The Robin Hood of Ribeye from January, the fake firefighter. I can't believe that was already almost a year ago. Good Lord. The fake firefighter from July, and the wrong man waterboarding from October. How do we want to handle this? Because we did last hour, we each saved one. Do we want to do a blind draw to save one and see if we overlap here?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, let's do that. We're doing this on the fly here. I got to find some scrap paper in here. All right, don't show me your vote. Yeah, last hour, we made them public. This time, we're going to do a secret ballot.
Secret ballot.
So, if we pick different ones, all right, so let's do that. If we pick different ones, then those are the 2 that advance on to next hour. If we pick the same one, then we've got to deliberate the remaining 2 to see who gets eliminated here.
That's fair.
All right. All right. I've got mine written. Do you?
Yeah, I got mine written down.
All right. Show yours to the camera in 3, 2, and 1. All right. We picked different ones.
We did.
And they are the same two, by the way, that we saved last hour as well. See, that's why I didn't want to go with the fake firefighter, because I thought maybe we would end up picking the same one. So Dan chose the fake firefighter to save. I chose to save the meat suitcase. That means that the wrong man waterboarding has been eliminated. Why did you go with the fake firefighter?
What I keep coming back to, the great what is wrong with yous, like the truly great ones. You know, you can have a great headline and be a great what is wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just the headline, but it's really the details. You got to drill down to the details. Like when I think back to some of our past champions, it's not just that the tailpipe girl got her head stuck in the exhaust pipe. It's that she later posted on social media, yeah, I'm the tailpipe girl. What you know about it? Like it's the little things like that. It's not just.
She also did it twice.
Yes, she did it twice. It's not just that our 2019 champion, the father of the year, stole his daughter's Girl Scout cookies to get an erotic massage. It's the fact that he faked a robbery to explain why the money was missing and also injured himself in the process, like intentionally drew blood to make his story more believable. It's the stacking, it's the layers of it. You know, it's the facts on facts on facts of the case. And the fake firefighter, to me, it's one thing to be charged. Oh, you're charged with impersonating an officer because you're pretending to be a firefighter and you're pulling people over, and you pulled this scam in 4 different heavily populated counties in the Los Angeles, like greater Los Angeles area. It's the website. It's the LinkedIn page, a fake LinkedIn profile of himself as a firefighter. It's the badges and the livery on his car and the siren and the double-digit total of long guns that he somehow accumulated over the course of perpetuating this lie. And it's the old enough to know better. He's 42 years old. Most people decide they want to be a fireman, and then they either do it or they're like 7, and then next month they decide they want to be an astronaut instead. This guy held on tight to his dream. A little too tight.
Yeah, it's so fun. Oh my God, that's funny. I saved the meat suitcase because a guy put meat in a suitcase and tried to rob a Walmart.
I think, and we're going to find out, because we are going to, from this point forward, be looking to our user votes, our listener votes. I think the meat suitcase is the people's champ. I think that's the one of all of them that our listeners maybe enjoyed the most this year. And again, just based on reaction to it when we told it, I think that was the one that got that and AJG probably got the most reaction, most live response. The visual is just incredible. It'd be one thing if you walked out with like a couple of racks of ribs. Like that guy absconded with hundreds of dollars in stolen meat.
And every kind. He ran the gamut.
He really did. He wanted to make sure that when he went down to Jose's Taco Emporium, 3 blocks from the Walmart, and wanted to do a little business, that he had whatever the owner-operator of that restaurant could think of. That when he went across the street and he found Chuck's Bar and Grill, that Chuck would say, oh, man, my meat guy's here. And he's got options.
I don't know where he gets these prices, man. I just don't know. But they gotta have they've got the barcode on them still. Like they say Walmart on them.
Like, I'm not here to ask questions. I'm just here to run a business.
The little detail of that story, of course, is the fact that he's been arrested 70 times.
Yeah.
So those are our 2 finalists. The final pairing for our What Is Wrong With You Tournament of Failed Champions and the Fail 4. We have the fake firefighter from July, and trying to go wire to wire, our January champion trying to win the year, the Robin Hood of Ribeye. Those are our 2 finalists. We will find our yearly winner coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Again, a reminder that What Is Wrong With You in our Tournament of Failed Champions is sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, which saves you time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard right here in the capital city. Matt Derrick will join us next, coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Let's go to Kansas City, where we talk to our Chiefs insider at this time every Friday. His name is Matt Derrick. He covers the reigning Super Bowl champions for ChiefsDigest.com. Critically acclaimed author, beat writer, and just great guy in general. Matt Derrick can also be found on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, before we get to the Chiefs, I have to ask you, what are the nerves like? What is the energy in the Derrick household ahead of the biggest game for Mizzou football in I don't even know how long tonight?
Well, it's pretty high. I mean, this is big opportunity. Certainly could set the ground for a really good start to next season. So optimistic, but I'm a Mizzou fan, so I can't get too high. I want to go in with low expectations that can hopefully be exceeded. But tell you what, the line on that game has just been bouncing around like crazy. I can't explain that one, but I think Mizzou's got a chance because I think they got the best haul of players that are actually playing in this game, and I know Ohio State's missing a couple of key players, so Mizzou's going to miss some people on defense too. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not going to lie.
I will be honest here, and this is sometimes a kiss of death on this show, and I do not say this to jinx Missouri. I really mean it. I kind of like Missouri as an underdog here, Matt. I kind of am feeling that. Ohio State is going to play a new quarterback and is going to lose all of its receivers, and I don't really know how good they were in the first place this year. Like I'm kind of liking Mizzou in this spot.
I mean, I feel the same way, which now scares me. So I do feel that this is a complete and total curse, and I will blame you if Mizzou loses. But
that's fair.
And if not, you will get none of the credit. So see, that's the risk you run.
No, that's fair. Every single part of that is entirely fair. I would expect nothing less if we're being completely honest, Matt. All right, let's get to the Kansas City Chiefs. They will play on Sunday this weekend, 3:25 kickoff against the Cincinnati Bengals. But I want to start by looking back, and I will ask you a very simple question about Christmas Day. What the hell happened?
I wish I could explain it to you. I'm just not sure that I have ever seen a complete offense just absolutely fall apart like that. I mean, they just simply couldn't seem to do anything right and get out of their own way. I've never seen it before. Really haven't. I mean, this team has played poorly, but I mean, as Matt Nagy kind of summed it up yesterday, I mean, that was kind of rock bottom. I mean, there's no doubt that was a game that they absolutely should have won. The defense played exceptionally well. You give up 14 points on offense. You absolutely can't do that. Steve Spagnuolo yesterday was even bewildered. He's like, we did that on back-to-back plays? What? No, that's just, it is the kind of sequence that you don't see from a championship team, which is what makes you think that this is not a championship team. And then you kind of look around the AFC and you look at what the Chiefs do and you look at what their potential is, and then you kind of come around to the idea of like, well, you know what? They get hot at the right time. Maybe things can happen.
The offensive line's woes in that game against the Raiders, is it as simple as you, for a lot of the game, had a rookie left tackle lined up against one of the best edge rushers, maybe a defensive player of the year candidate in Max Crosby, or do the issues run a little deeper than that?
Probably a little deeper than that. I don't think there was any doubt. I mean, that was the first time that Wanya Morris kind of really looked like a rookie. He had some tough moments, but that's what rookies will do. I mean, especially when they get kind of thrown into the fire like he has. All in all, I mean, I think you'll take the body of work that you have gotten from Wanya and feel like it's setting a pretty good, core for the future and a good base. But yeah, it was a rough game. And when you get one guy struggling, then, and this was what I felt like a lot of the Chiefs' problems were, on Monday, kind of fit into one of two categories. Either one, there's the focus, which is an issue that we've had all season, that guys just seem to, miss the attention to detail and miss the little tiny things, or it's overcompensation. They're trying to make up for maybe a mistake earlier. They're trying too hard. They're trying to run without the football. On the offensive line, I think, you sometimes get cases where maybe a guy is struggling and now there's the tendency to help out that guy. Well, now you're kind of leaving some other gaps to get open. And that's why, I do feel like, and Andy Heck even talked about this the last time we talked to him, that it's, late in the season and they're still not 100%, on page with communication and kind of passing off and protections and everything. And I think some of that, goes back to having two new tackles. Now you got a really young left tackle there's going to be some gaps. There's going to be some things that you miss. There's going to be some rookie mistakes. There's going to be just the things that come with experience and lack of it, playing alongside each other. And, even like a Trey Smith knowing what Jawan Taylor is going to do, and Jawan knowing what Trey's going to do. I mean, I think you've seen along that offensive line, there's been a disconnect this year. And you're hoping that that will go away with time, but that doesn't really answer your problem for this year.
Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com is our guest. He's our Chiefs insider here on 580 Sports Talk and joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline at this time every Friday on the program. You can find Matt's work at ChiefsDigest.com and on Twitter at Matt Derrick. Matt, the most alarming thing to me about that offensive performance on Monday was how poorly coached they looked, in the sense that plays weren't getting in on time. There was frustration from guys who looked like they weren't where they were supposed to be pre-snap. Mahomes is like coaching on the field, getting guys lined up, sending guys in motion. Like at one point he put his hands up as if to show Rashee Rice how to catch a football, which is like a bizarre thing to see a quarterback do in the middle of the game. I haven't watched an Andy Reid team and felt like coaching was the problem for a very long time. It felt like there was a disconnect on Monday. Where does that come from? That inability to get the plays in on time, inability to be in sync pre-snap. How do you explain that?
I mean, you really can't, because, you would think that's something that this team has down pretty well. I mean, especially given how, consistently good at that they have been. And given the fact that Andy Reid's been doing this a long time, and he's got a process, and they generally, follow that pretty well. I mean, yes, there have been, issues in the past, and sometimes you get them when you've got a new quarterback or you got a bunch of new players, because, hey, Andy Reid's play calls are difficult. They're lengthy. I mean, there's a lot of elements to them, because there's basically, I mean, in those play calls, there's an instruction for the offensive line, for the protection, for each of the receivers, what their route's going to be, so there's a lot of different elements to it. And, I mean, all it takes is just a couple of seconds on the sideline of contemplating your field position and, where you're really at. And and sometimes those are things like, I was talking with my colleague, Nick Jacobs, on our podcast this week. There's, play calls are set up on the sheet and everything like that for everything, down to the, the hash mark and your position where you are on the field. And, sometimes, I mean, even the officials can foul that up. If you're all of a sudden not sure what your yard and distance is, and you're waiting to get that in, or, the ball gets moved at the last second, or you're on, a different hash mark than you think you are. I mean, some of those things can absolutely foul up an Andy Reid offense, but to see this consistently as we did, I mean, to me, it comes back to, is it the lack of focus? I think you're certainly seeing that. And some of that, is it because you've got guys that are rookies and, newcomers this year. You had a lot of, receivers that you were trying to build into this game plan back in training camp. Really the Chiefs had like 9 receivers that they were rotating amongst the first team. Is that what the byproduct is? Is it trying to feed too many mouths and keep too many guys involved? Whereas, you end up with not everybody as prepared as they need to be. Now, once again, you'd think week 16, those problems wouldn't be popping up, but they are. And it's, to me, yeah, I mean, it's either a lack of concentration or focus. And honestly, I mean, as every player, I think coach has told us this week, everybody's got a piece of it, because you know what? It hasn't been the same person on every single play. I mean, it's like it's like on a different play, somebody else decides that, hey, it's my turn to do something wrong on this play.
Great players can have bad games, and Patrick Mahomes' bad games have been few and far between, but there's no mistaking that Monday was a bad game for Patrick Mahomes. How does he bounce back? What ways can he play better, and in what ways can he get a little bit more help moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of just basic ways that he can, and he kind of hit on them when we talked to him on Wednesday. And, and one's been a recurring theme that they focus on, which is just kind of getting back to the basics, not getting too exotic, just trying to, run the bread and butter stuff that they do, not trying to get too fancy. And, obviously we saw a trick play blow up in their face and result in 7 points that cost them dearly against the Raiders. That probably fits into it. I mean, there's probably a place for those, chances that you take into your own end zone and backed up to your own goal line, probably not the greatest place to take those shots. We'll see how the Bengals play them defensively. If they play them the same way, similar that the Raiders did, there might be some opportunities for this team to take some deep shots, which they have really been avoiding the last couple of weeks because they haven't been very good at it. But one of the reasons why they weren't good at it is because teams have been focusing so much on taking it away. Now, teams are making an adjustment. I mean, the Raiders almost dared the Chiefs to throw the ball deep, and they really didn't do it. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how Cincinnati will play them and how the Chiefs respond. But, Patrick mentioned another thing on Wednesday that I think is pretty important. And part of that's on him because on Monday, against the Raiders, I really felt like that was the first time that I'd seen Mahomes, not be in Superman mode where he is, typically kind of gets into that mode. It's like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. Jump on my back and let's go. I mean, this was almost I'm going to do it myself. You guys, I don't know who I can trust. I'm just going to try and do it myself. And it doesn't really matter who's on the field. And that you can't do that. I mean, you're the quarterback. You can't do that. I mean, you have to trust the guys around you. And, and his drifting, his footwork in the pocket of late has really been kind of problematic. And that has, I think, absolutely resulted in some breakdown protection. It's resulted in, holding onto the ball too long and maybe missing some receivers. There's no doubt. I mean, there's definitely things that Patrick can clean up about his game. And I think he'd tell you that. And some of it, I think, is absolutely fits into my category of overcompensation. He's trying to do too much. It's metaphorically trying to throw the 10-point touchdown pass. You got to kind of play within yourself. And I don't think he did that on Monday.
Just a couple more minutes with Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider from ChiefsDigest.com. You can find all of his work covering the Chiefs at ChiefsDigest.com. You can also find him on Twitter, where you should be following him, at Matt Derrick is his handle there. This Bengals game, Matt, if L'Jarius Sneed is not able to go, how much does that hamper the Chiefs' chances of winning?
It's a big blow. Especially because we need to see if the Bengals are going to have Jamar Chase. it seems like I think both these teams are maybe playing a little bit of gamesmanship about the availability of both those players. I kind of get the sense that L'Jarius Sneed's going to be able to play unless there's a setback in the next 48 hours. The Bengals, are kind of playing that same 48-hour game. I would expect that he is going to play as well. And if that's the case, then, it's kind of a level playing field for both teams. They're going to have one of their best players that could be going up against each other, a little banged up. If it does end up being Sneed on Jamar Chase, then obviously that means that you still have T. Higgins. You still got some other things to worry about. But the Chiefs, the way this defense is situated this year, if you've got L'Jarius Sneed, they should be a fine matchup for the Bengals. Especially against the backup quarterback. Even though Jake Browning has had his moments, this is the kind of game that Steve Spagnuolo should absolutely be able to go after him, make him uncomfortable. It is kind of ABC defensive football. You can't let the Bengals get big chunk yardage on first and second down. You've got to force them into third and difficult situations. Can't be 3rd and 1. It's got to be 3rd and 5. If you can do that, then I think this defense can hold this team. But if it goes the other way, if the Bengals have Jamar Chase, the Chiefs don't have L'Jarius, then you've got to, pick what you're going to do. And because Spagnuolo even indicated yesterday, hadn't really decided that if L'Jarius can't play, if he will ask somebody else to cover, to travel with one of the Bengals receivers, whether they'll maybe just play a little bit more zone and do a lot of double teaming. Obviously, there's been a lot of trash talk from the Bengals receivers this week and Jamar. But I think the Chiefs are equipped to handle this. But yeah, L'Jarius is a big piece because remember, you're also playing without Brian Cook, and having two of your defensive starters down, especially in the secondary, against those receivers of the Bengals would be pretty scary.
Can you make it make sense to me, Matt, why the Chiefs are favored by 6.5? I know they're at home. I still think the Chiefs are a better team. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Jake Browning, but the way these two teams have played in the last half of a season makes that line feel a little bit big to me.
Yeah, I keep using overcompensation. I almost feel that it is kind of that way with these two teams. I feel like Bengals are coming off a rough game, especially offensively, and maybe it feels like, hey, the Jake Browning magic is over, and that's who the Bengals are. It's just going to be too much of a challenge for them going up against the Chiefs defense. And then conversely, I mean, I think there's a lot of people saying, well, the Chiefs can't be that bad offensively 2 weeks in a row. Patrick Mahomes doesn't, lose 3 games in a row, so he's gonna be able to snap out of this before the end of the season. But what evidence have we seen to this point? I mean, I'm with you. I feel like this should be more like a field goal game, because I would say on a neutral field, these two teams would be kind of even. I mean, I feel like they're playing that way right now. Maybe there's just a little bit more of the Jake Browning magic being over for the betting community, and there's just not a lot of faith in him. But I'm with you. I mean, I feel like the way the Chiefs are playing, especially, it's a pretty big margin.
All right, Matt, real quick before we have to get out of here for the top of the hour, any fun plans for New Year's Eve?
Probably none whatsoever. We're not big New Year's Eve people, so I would say that my wife will be asleep before midnight, and who knows where I'll be. I mean, I might just be on the computer, doing work or something. But this is the quietest holiday in the world around our house.
Yeah, you are in good company, because we said pretty much the same thing at the top of the hour today. Matt Derrick is the best of the best when it comes to covering the Kansas City Chiefs. Head to ChiefsDigest.com for all of his coverage of the reigning Super Bowl champs. Follow him on Twitter as well, where his handle is @MattDerrick. Matt, we appreciate you. A very happy New Year to you. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. Enjoy the Cotton Bowl tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Have a safe and happy New Year, everybody.
That is Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. We're halfway done with 580 Sports Talk. 4 o'clock hours coming up next. halfway home on the final 580 Sports Talk of 2023. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you on a lovely afternoon in the capital city. It's our final show before a long holiday weekend. Final weekday of the calendar year 2023. We're also taking off on New Year's Day. Hope you get a chance to have a long weekend as well. Hope you at least at some point get to celebrate the new year or New Year's Eve or something this weekend. Spend some time with your family.
I hope the Chiefs don't ruin New Year's like they ruined Christmas for so many of you.
Yeah, man. I don't get down with the Chiefs like that. Like, I want the Chiefs to win every week. Like, I support the team because it's good for us, and I support all of you who are fans of them. But, man, I even came away from that game like, damn, what a bitter start to this day.
Yeah, what a bummer.
Especially the Raiders, man. Come on.
People swearing on Christmas. That's no fun.
Do you know the last time prior to Christmas Day the Raiders had beaten the Chiefs?
It was the victory lap game in 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I miss John Gruden. I miss so much about John Gruden. He's probably never coming back, but God, I miss John Gruden.
No, he'll be the coach at Indiana, I heard.
Man, but that would have been so funny if he was.
Yes.
No reason to believe it was possible, but God, it would have been funny if that actually ended up happening. Coming up this hour, we'll get to this week's college football and NFL picks. We are running out of NFL games to pick in the regular season, and it's still a dead heat between Dan and I. Dan's up on me by 2.5 games at this point with a couple of weeks left. We'll also get to our championship round of What Is Wrong With You. Our two final competitors, the Robin Hood of Ribeye and the fake firefighter.
So if you are on Twitter and you follow the 580 Sports Talk account, there is a poll that we are running until we choose a champion here in just a little bit. So you can go find us on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk if you have a Twitter account. I'm not calling it the other thing. I'm never going to call it the other thing.
Not me either.
Yeah, it's Twitter. Go vote in the Twitter poll if you are able. Maybe you're not at your desk or don't have it on your phone. That's fine too. You can text your vote to 785-272-9429. Text your vote, the fake fireman or the meat suitcase. You can even just text meat if you'd like, or fire if you'd like. We'll know who you mean.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty distinct stories. So you can text your vote, 785-272-9429, or you can post your vote in the comments of our YouTube stream. Our YouTube stream is live. Hi, everybody. YouTube.com, 580 Sports Talk is the YouTube account where we are streaming our show live. We will tally up the listener votes. They'll have a say because they may need to break a tie. Yep. Who knows? We will tally up the listener votes. I will tell you right now, at last I checked the Twitter poll, it was a dead heat.
How about that?
It was a dead tie. So, yes, we are urging you to be part of the democratic process of choosing our 7th annual What Is Wrong With You champion. Who will join the grilled cheese standoff, tailpipe girl, father of the year, wrong house demolition, the bridge jumper, the family funeral feud. And am I missing one? I think I'm missing one. Oh, yes. Am I?
I don't think so. I think you just covered 6.
Yeah.
There are some that were left on the cutting room floor over the years that I thought could have had a chance.
No, who won in 2020? Well, yeah, Bridge Jumper won in 2021, didn't he? Yeah, I did. I covered them all.
Yeah.
Who will join them in the rafters as a What Is Wrong With You yearly champion?
You know, is there one story from the past that you just haven't gotten over not winning a month or the year?
Man, I don't know if there's one I haven't gotten over. There have been a lot of really, really good stories over the passing of time that I thought were really, really good. Man, I thought 2019 was such a good year.
It was.
For What Is Wrong With You. We had the guy who made the bomb and with dog poop and exploded it on his friend.
Wow, was that long ago?
Yeah, it was 2019.
Damn, that feels like it was yesterday. I remember that one. That dude was an all-time bomb.
Or one I still love, one of my favorites all time was the guy who tried to buy a monkey and got scammed. They kept asking him for more money and gift cards.
He ended up being a finalist, I think.
I think he was in 2018. I think he was a finalist. He lost to Tailpipe Girl. It was going to be hard to beat Tailpipe Girl, but I think about the monkey scam a lot.
Because he was so dumb. And Jake was like, no, he just wanted to buy a monkey. Already a problem. It's only getting worse from there. Progressively worse from there. The one that I've never gotten over not winning a month was the guy who tried to steal a plane to go to a concert and didn't know how to fly it. And he just thought you like pushed a couple of buttons and the plane took off. In Texarkana, that's where that one was. One of my all-time personal favorites. So we will find our 2023 champion. We will hang a new banner in the rafters coming up in just a little bit. We will also get to some college hoops coming up this weekend. KU plays Wichita State and some other news and notes from around the sports world this hour as well. We got some college football going on right now. Notre Dame is beating the pants off of Oregon State. I feel bad for Oregon State, man. They had so many guys opt out, so many bad vibes. Their coach left, who's an alumnus of the school. Just,
Yeah, they were down to their third quarterback. Yeah, that was...
And he's not good.
Yeah, tough draw. Tough draw for the Beavs. Had a fun year, had a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Tough way to end it.
We also have the Liberty Bowl going on right now, which is currently running like a 4-hour infomercial. Is this a commercial or halftime? I don't even know. Memphis was up big early on Iowa State, but the Clones fought back at least a little bit. They're down 2 scores at the moment in Memphis.
22-13 is halftime score. Was 19-0 Memphis, but Rocco Becht and company have gotten a toehold back into the game, it looks like.
All right, let's get to our picks for the week. For the year, we still have Jake's record written in our notes because he went 47-27 and 4 pushes somehow. So he's going to end up winning overall on winning percentage. So congratulations, Jake. Woohoo. All right, Dan.
Jake's living the best life. He's gone to more games like the last 2 days out in San Antonio than I think he went to that weren't Washburn games in the last 12 months.
Yeah, he went to a Spurs game to see Wembanyama. He was at the Alamo Bowl last night.
Good seats.
Yeah, good seats.
Better than the press seats. He's living his best life as a sports fan.
Yeah, that's true. That was a pretty fun game last night.
It was.
Yeah. I went with Oklahoma because they were the dog and the metrics liked them a little bit more. So I thought, all right, I think that's a fair bet. I don't think it was a bad bet by any means, but man, Arizona hit the gas in the final 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, they forced, 4, maybe even 5 turnovers in the contest.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold, woof.
Every year there's a team. If you're a real college football fanatic and you watch a lot of college football, every year you have that team that you end up seeing a lot of just because they happen to be on outside of maybe a window where the team you watch most often plays, and you just end up seeing a lot of them and really enjoying watching them. Arizona was that team for me this year. Mm-hmm. I loved Noah Fafita and those stud wide receivers, another college team with a wide receiver room better than the Kansas City Chiefs with McMillan and Cowing. I really enjoyed watching Arizona football this year. That team is a lot of fun, and they come into the Big 12 in a really good spot. That looks like a program on the rise.
What is that now, 8? Is that 8 schools that we can come up with that have better receiving rooms than the Chiefs?
We got Arizona and Kansas, Oregon and Washington, Texas. I'd say Alabama. Their 2 best guys are better than the Chiefs' 2 best guys. LSU, Florida State. I got 8.
Ohio State.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's 9.
Yeah, that's 9 college teams.
Yes, obviously those guys are college players and the Chiefs have actual professionals and veterans and all of that. But as I said Tuesday following the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, KU made more contested catches in the first half of their bowl game against UNLV than Chiefs receivers have made, I think, all year. Who do you trust right now? I'm not even really kidding. Who would you trust right now to get open on 3rd in the game in a meaningful spot? Sky Moore or Luke Grimm?
Luke Grimm.
Yeah, he can actually run a route.
Luke Grimm, I know it's a basketball term, but I'll use it for football. Luke Grimm has a bag.
Yeah,
he got a bag of tricks. Sky Moore doesn't have a bag.
No.
Bagless.
On the scale of bagless to that boy nice, he is all the way on the bagless side of the spectrum. Another shout out to the Trill Withers show. All right, our picks for the week. Let's finally get into these. Let's start with our college football picks. Dan's up on me by 2.5 games. He went 1-4 last week. I went 2-3, so I barely was able to gain much ground. We've got one of the same college football picks. Let's just start there. I think Oregon is going to massacre Liberty. Like, everyone's playing for Oregon. Yeah. None of their good players opted out. I think there's a couple guys who are injured, but like Bo Nix is playing.
Yeah.
All their guys are playing, and they were better than Liberty already. I bet on this game the day the Bulls were announced. So what was that, December 6th or December 5th, whatever it was? The line was 14. And I was like, oh, this should have opened at 21 plus. Give me Oregon. This didn't work out well when I did it before the Patriots game for the Chiefs.
No.
When I said, give me the alt spread. I didn't say give me the alt spread in this one. Max play. 4 units on the Ducks in this one. This is like gonna buy a new house or gotta sell my car territory on Oregon in this game. Give me the Ducks.
I don't know if I like them that much, but no, I think Oregon is going to own the Libs, if you will. Liberty didn't play anybody. They had 13 games.
They had the easiest schedule in the entire country.
They did not play a soul, and now they're about to go from playing the game on Pro to playing the game on All Madden against an Oregon team who only lost to Washington. It's the only team that beat them all year, and Washington's in the playoff. Against every other team that wasn't Washington, Oregon looked like a top 4 team in the country.
They ripped everyone else to shreds in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think they're going to absolutely pummel Liberty. And I, for one, will delight in seeing Liberty lose like that.
Yeah, and all that those fine folks in Lynchburg will be able to do is just sit by and watch. So we're both on Oregon for that matchup. My other college game, give me Iowa. I'm taking the Hawkeyes plus 6.5. I don't know that they will score, like, period, in the game. But I do know Tennessee is starting a freshman quarterback. What is his name? It's a longer last name.
Iamaleava.
That's right. Yes.
I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. Iamaleava, maybe?
Yeah.
Nico Iamaleava.
We will find out during the game. Hopefully they will be pronouncing it correctly. But 5-star prospect was the top quarterback in the country last year.
I think so,
Maybe second behind Arch. Either way, really highly touted quarterback prospect. Freshman quarterback making his first start against Phil Parker's defense does not sound very fun if I'm the Tennessee Volunteers. So I'm going to take Iowa plus 6.5. I think they're going to keep it lower scoring. I think they can really frustrate the Tennessee wide open passing game. So I'll take the Hawkeyes in that one.
Interesting pick. I'm on a underdog as well. And we talked about this game earlier when we had Matt Derrick on. I think Mizzou to cover 5.5 against an Ohio State team with a brand new starting quarterback with a bunch of opt-outs. Now, not as many opt-outs as some of the other big programs have in these lesser bowl games that you typically see. But a lot of opt-outs for OSU. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be one of them. There's been some uncertainty about that. That's why the line has bounced all over the place. It's been 3.5. It's been 4.5. Today it went up to 5.5. That's where I got it. That's where I like it. The more points you give to the underdog, the better, right? So, yeah, I'll take Mizzou plus 5.5. They don't have hardly anybody opting out. They've got something to prove. This is a team that could make a real statement in this bowl game if they go out and win it. I think it's the difference between, like, oh, this is a nice little one-off year to, like, Mizzou has something for real cooking for the long haul with Eli Drinkwitz.
I like Missouri in this game, too, at plus 5.5. Why is that line moved so much? I saw that over the course of 2 weeks, it has moved somewhere in the neighborhood of 17 points. Just back and forth, back and forth.
It's mixture. There must be a lot of sharp action on it once. And then the confusion about Marvin Harrison Jr., whether or not he's going to play.
Yeah. So I
still sitting at 5.5 as I check it now.
I like Missouri in that spot, man. I do. And if the Tigers lose, Matt, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got a Mizzou fan in our text line here from the 785 said Theo Weiss going to go off tonight. He's a Texas kid.
Yeah, that's true. He's a Texas kid. Hey, thank you for listening, even though I've said many mean things about your favorite team.
You said so many mean things about Mizzou. Yeah.
And that's not going to change for what it's worth, but I do like them in this spot.
We also have a texter from the 785 asking if you thinking the Hawkeyes are going to cover 6.5 means you think the Hawkeyes can score over 6.
I mean, they might just lose 6-0.
Yeah.
That might be the final score of the game.
They could give up 2 field goals and lose and still cover. Yes.
Brian Ferentz was asked if he's going to give some other quarterbacks snaps in that game, and he said, no, Deacon Hill has led us to a lot of wins, and he is going to play as long as he can play. To which all of the Iowa fans I know were like, just fire him now. Why is he allowed to coach in this game? Deacon Hill is bad. And that's true. He's really not good.
In the last game of Lloyd Carr's head coaching career, he went out with such a bang as the Michigan head coach. They were playing Florida in, I think it was the Capital One Bowl or the Citrus Bowl. It was some bowl in Florida in Lloyd Carr's last season as Michigan's head coach. That, of course, would be the year where they started 0-2 with the loss to Appalachian State, and then they got paved by Oregon. They ended up going like 8-4 that year. They played a bowl game. And
the Capital One Bowl.
Yes. And Lloyd Carr let Chad Henne just throw it all over the park. The absolute antithesis of everything Michigan football had been or would be was Michigan in that game, just throwing it like crazy. And they put up a bunch of points and they beat Florida in a game where I'm pretty sure they were a significant underdog. I would love to see Iowa try and do that tonight. Just like every trick play Brian Ferentz has ever seen on film, every deep ball, every wrinkle, every little thing that they could possibly do to try and make it a fun finale for Brian Ferentz in Iowa. I hope they do it. They won't, but I hope they do.
I'm looking at the stats of that game right now. Chad Henne went 25 of 39, 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw 2 picks. Florida tried to match him. Tim Tebow also threw over 30 times, 33 attempts. He only completed 17 of them and only had 154 yards.
Yeah.
He did not throw an interception, though. He had 3 touchdowns as well. Man, a real who's who in that game. Junior Hemingway had a catch for Michigan.
Yeah.
Leading receiver Adrian Arrington. That team also had Mario Manningham.
Yes, it did.
All right, NFL picks for the weekend. I'm on both LA teams in their respective games. Now, the Chargers have a lot of dudes who are out. No Joey Bosa, no Keenan Allen, among others. They're still running Easton Stick out there. I am going to ride with the theory that all good stories for backups who become starters end after a while. And Jarrett Stidham got his good story in that one game he played for the Raiders last year. Remember? It was week 17, and he played in place of Derek Carr, and everyone, or maybe it was even week 16, and everyone's like, whoa, well, hold on here. Maybe they've got something in Jarrett Stidham. And then the next week he came out and it was reminded, oh, yeah, that's why this guy's never been a starter before.
Yes.
I think that trend is going to continue. I think the vibe is bad for Denver. He's not going to have his best receiver in Cortland Sutton. He is out for the game due to a concussion. Chargers are getting 3.5 on the road in Denver. I'm going to take the Chargers in that one, which is normally not very smart, but I think this is going to be an ugly kind of game with not a whole lot of good football. Getting more than a field goal, I'll take the road team. And I'm going to go with the Rams as a road favorite against the Giants, giving 5.5. That's what they're laying in this one. I like Tyrod Taylor, but that team is broken. I mean, they're just bad in New York. I don't really think they've got anything to play for at this point. And I think the Rams are playing as well as almost anybody in the NFL. I mean, if you told me right now who are the teams playing the best football, I'm putting the Ravens first. Rams second? The third?
Probably I'd put them third behind the Browns.
Yeah, the Browns are playing really well too. And then I put the 49ers right around that group too. Like that's the group that's playing the best football right now. The Rams are dealing. Matt Stafford looks as good as he's ever looked right now. And it pains me. You know how much that pains me to say. I'm not a Matt Stafford guy, but I'll take the Rams laying 5.5.
I've got Tampa Bay -2.5 against New Orleans. I think those are two teams heading in the opposite direction. Tampa Bay trending upwards, New Orleans not so much. And this feels like an opportunity for Tampa Bay to really put their stamp on the NFC South. I think they're the better team. If you're going to give me less than a field goal with a team that I think is clearly better, I'm going to take it. And then I got Cincinnati +6.5 at Arrowhead. I haven't seen anything from the Chiefs the last month and a half that says to me they can beat anybody by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. No.
So
I agree.
I will take Cincinnati +6.5, especially I'll feel even better about that if Chase plays and Snead doesn't.
Yeah, I was thinking about that same one. So if that's the case, if you want to add an extra gamble onto that bet, make the bet now before that line moves again. If Chase is able to go. Wild card pick for the week. We've both got an NFL total. I'm going with the over in Raiders versus Colts. It's at 42.5, which seems really low for an Indianapolis game. They've had a bunch of high-scoring games this year. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of defense in this one, so I like the over there.
I'm going under in Pittsburgh, Seattle. The total is 41.5. Each of Seattle's last 2 games have gone under that total. And unless you think Mason Rudolph is a suddenly superstar because of what George Pickens did last week against Cincinnati, I can't see that game getting over the 41.5 here. So I'm going under in that one. I think it'll be lower scoring.
Let us know your favorite pick for the week, either on the text line or in the YouTube comment section. We'll get to a timeout, and when we come back, we will name the 7th annual champion of What Is Wrong With You. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. It all comes down to this. 12 months, 200-ish episodes of What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Dumb idiots, stupid stories every single day. And we've gotten ourselves down to the final 2. Our fail 4 in the Tournament of Failed Champions has become our final finalists. From the month of January, the Robin Hood of ribeye, a.k.a. the meat suitcase. And from July, the fake firefighter. And on this championship round edition of What Is Wrong With You, presented by Top City Metal Supply, we've got the stories as originally presented to us when they were introduced on our airwaves back in January and July.
Yes, excited to share these with you. The original tellings, our original reactions to the story. So sit back and relax and let us tell you one more time. Tell it like we told it the first time. These 2 stories in our What Is Wrong With You championship. And we'll start all the way back in January. with the Robin Hood of ribeye.
We're going to South Euclid, Ohio, where a man from Garfield Heights, Ohio, was arrested last week after investigators say that he stole a shopping cart full of packaged meat to then resell to restaurants. There's a picture.
No, there's a whole picture.
From WKBN TV in Ohio.
You got a whole charcuterie board in there, man.
They got that roll of ground beef, some sliced meat. We see what looks to be a sirloin steak in there, various other cuts of meat.
A rack of ribs.
Yeah, that's what that is. Just sitting in this suitcase. So according to the South Euclid, Ohio Police Department, Walmart reported a shoplifter who pushed a shopping cart full of various packaged meats and a suitcase out of the store without paying. Investigators say the suspect then filled the suitcase with the stolen meat. Anything he couldn't fit in the suitcase, he just threw in the dumpster. He said, I can't fit these cold cuts in there, into the trash.
I've bitten off more than I can chew.
He threw them in the dumpster. So according to police, the man pushed the cart until its security feature locked its front wheel. He then just walked off with the suitcase. Officers stopped the suspect at the RTA bus stop across from the Walmart. The suspect, a 62-year-old man, told officers he sells stolen meat to restaurants at half the price.
He's the Robin Hood of ribeye.
Oh, my God. This has to win for that nickname alone. The man, however, did not name what restaurants he sold his stolen meat to. The man had several warrants out for his arrest, including 2 with the same police department. He was arrested and booked for theft. Here's the punchline at the very end of the joke for you. Investigators say this is the 70th time this man has been arrested.
Have they all been for meat theft?
I cannot imagine the same crime happened 70 times.
There's no way he's not selling this to other restaurants. You walk in with a suitcase full of steaks to the Old Country buffet. They're like, hello, gentlemen. Like to do some business.
We're going to post this picture. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, we're going to post this picture up right now so you can see it. And I think we gave a pretty fair description if you're listening on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW. It literally is just a suitcase that they recovered filled with meat. That's as simple as it can get. And we're going to post it up right now. It is just a roller bag of meats. We've got beef liver in there. We've got some ground chuck. Again, we've got a nice big cut of steak up in the half of it.
He's just rolling his satchel behind him to the Golden Corral, gentlemen. And they got to be like, God dang it, it's this guy again. He's gonna try and sell us He's gonna try and sell us meat. It's the meat guy. God, him again. He's like the guy who shows up, at the barbershop and he's got like everything bootleg, like Coming to America.
Opening up his coat, his trench coat.
I got bootleg DVDs.
You want to buy a watch?
Guy, I got A Man Called Otto on DVD. Not even in
Director's
the stores
cut.
yet.
You can't even see this at the IMAX yet.
He's got that, but it's meat. He's the bootleg meat guy.
Absolutely outrageous. The meat guy. Call your meat guy. Man, that was funnier than I. Oh, God. So that's the meat suitcase. That reaction is so priceless. That is finalist number 1. Finalist number 2 from the month of July, the Santa Muerte Fire Department. This is the fake firefighter. Our stories today are going to begin in California, Dan, where we meet 42-year-old Andrew DeBoer from Chino Hills, who is under arrest because he created a fake fire department and then posed as a firefighter. DeBoer allegedly went to great lengths to carry out his con. During a search of his home, and again, this is a 42-year-old man, investigators recovered a fire investigator identification card, badges, decals, and uniforms with patches for the Santa Muerte Fire Department, which does not exist. They also found firearms, body armor, and a duty belt. While scouring through his home, deputies also seized a Ford F-350 truck with California exempt license plates, emergency lights, and fire decals on the front hood and rear tailgate. The suspect seems to have taken further steps to solidify his cover. If you Google Santa Muerte Fire Department, an operational website for the non-existent agency appears, and many of the links redirect you to legitimate agencies.
He really covered his tracks.
However, the contact us page lists an address that actually redirects you to a shopping center that contains a UPS store and a hair salon in El Centro, California. There's even a fictitious linked page for the fake fire department.
LinkedIn?
Yeah, a LinkedIn page. That's what this man is.
LinkedIn page. Okay, I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
They are two questions made famous by former Philadelphia Eagles running back Ricky Waters.
Mm-hmm.
For who? For what? That is my question.
Had to make connections. Had to...
Not just the LinkedIn page. I'm talking about why did you create a fake fire department? For who? For what?
Great question. By the way, this LinkedIn page featured a photo that was an altered picture of a U.S. Forest Service firefighter. So the police first learned of DeBoer 9 days before his arrest when a Chino Hills man reported an odd encounter with a firefighter. The victim called authorities after they were pulled over by a man posing as law enforcement while driving the Ford F-350 with fire decals. During the stop, go ahead.
Pulling people over? Just impersonate a police officer.
He posed as an arson investigator, fully decked out with his duty belt and a firearm, his Santa Muerte Fire Department badge, baton, pepper spray, and handcuffs. This dude was going ham. The 41-year-old has been booked for false imprisonment and impersonating an officer. He may have victimized others in San Bernardino, Riverside, Los Angeles, and Orange counties. And he is currently being held.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, why?
I'm going to pretend to be a fireman in my own fire department.
Are you 8?
Right. It does. It sounds like something a 6-year-old would do.
Like putting a fire sticker on your big wheel. I'm a fireman. Oh, that's cute.
The siren goes, woo.
This guy is in his early 40s.
Yeah, like what's the con? What's the game? Like, is he or is he just really enjoy pretending to be a fireman? Maybe he does.
Maybe. That is the fake firefighter. Those are our two finalists for this year in What Is Wrong With You. Those are so funny to listen back to. Those were the full clips from when we introduced those stories on their respective days. Man, that is funny. That is so funny. That's what we're choosing between. Either one is a worthy winner for this year.
I think it has been summed up very well from this texter from the 785 saying either one is a winner. Pity one has to lose. The brisket bandito, which is another good name for our meat guy, is the quintessential What Is Wrong With You. However, the fake firefighter worked it to the nines, including the website. I can't help you.
I respect it.
Yeah, I respect that too. Among those who did feel like they could help us, it was unanimous on the text line. It was unanimous in the YouTube comments. And it was also pretty heavy victory in the Twitter poll.
Wow.
The meat guy has captured the hearts and minds of our audience.
All right, I will admit, I am a little surprised it was that overwhelming. I love both of these stories.
I do too.
I really do. That was, man, unanimous in 2 of the 3 outlets we have.
Yeah.
Wow. It is a great story.
At about a 60-40 on the YouTube, on the Twitter vote. Yeah.
Do you want to vote first or do you want me to? Or do we want to do a blind vote again?
We do the blind vote again.
Okay.
Yeah. I've already, I wrote them both down on separate scraps of paper. Like I really went into this hour. I wasn't sure who I was going to choose. I love both of these stories.
I do too. Something swayed my vote while we were replaying the original cuts.
Okay.
My vote was swayed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We're going to announce them. We will show them to the camera on YouTube. And at the same time, we should say it because I realized last hour we only showed them on video. And then I thought, oh, wait, we're mostly on the radio, which is probably not a great reflection of yours truly, but that's fine. It happens sometimes. All right. So we're going to show them up. We will put them in front of the camera, reveal them at the same time, and then we will announce them. Okay.
Yes.
Our votes for the champion of What Is Wrong With You in 2023. Please reveal your vote. Wow! We both went with the meat suitcase.
It is the meat suitcase.
Wow! I thought you were going to go with the fake firefighter.
You know, my vote was swayed as well.
Our reaction to that was so funny to listen to.
It really was. And we just had so many more jokes for it. Like, there were a lot of jokes for both of those, but we just had so many jokes for the guy who stole meat.
Oh my God, he stole meat.
He had a whole charcuterie board.
We got to pull up the picture.
We do.
We got to pull it up one more
put
time.
The picture up
We're
on
gonna
YouTube.
put it on the YouTube.
One more time for old time's sake.
Wow. I'm shocked. I really thought you were going to go with the firefighter. I was too. I was going to vote for the firefighter, but then we heard it back and I thought, nah, man, that was just too funny.
No, sometimes the people are right.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the will of the people is correct. Look at all that meat. It's
my God,
much.
it's so much meat.
It's such a variety. It's 20 pounds of ground beef. Like, could he get that through TSA?
No way.
Like
No, that's setting off the sensor immediately.
Well, I'm saying, is he going to have to pay the fee for being for the bag fee? That's a $50 bag fee. That bag's had too much meat.
This is good looking meat. Like I said on Wednesday, there's some good cuts in here.
Yeah.
He was making sure Tony's Diner was getting the finest.
Yeah. I just go around. I sell this half price. I sell this below markup. That's how I get a little spending money.
Make sure those steak and eggs are the finest cuts of Walmart meat.
It's a flawless business plan, right? Because there's no buy-in. It's all profit. It's all
really
profit.
Is.
No
it
matter what
profit.
he sells it for, it's all profit.
Dude. Oh my God. That's so funny. That I remember when we brought this story out, and I remember how funny it was, or I thought I remembered how funny it was. Listening back to it, even funnier.
Yeah.
That is, I believe, the second time, along with the grilled cheese standoff, that we have had a January winner essentially go wire to wire and win the whole thing.
I think you're right. Grilled cheese standoff was a January story as well. And I think it's reflective a little bit of our changing methods of broadcasting the show, because we're now streaming on YouTube. That's something we started doing last October. So this was the first year that we did the YouTube stream for the full year. And that has enabled us to, you know, in the past, we've had stories where we say, you know, there's a visual component to this that we wish we could show you that really sets it over the top.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we can share those visual components, and you can either see them live or you can go back to the archive if you want, and you can see the archive, and you could see that suitcase crammed to the brim with meat, different cuts of meat. Cuts of meat I would enjoy. Cuts of meat, personally, I could do without. I'm not a big liver guy. But just... you really need to see it to believe it. It's not like he walked out with like an armful of like chicken fried steaks and, you know, ground chuck or whatever. Man, he really did have a variety. His little personal,
there's a whole rack of ribs.
His own little personal butcher shop, his own meat emporium within the confines of a large suitcase.
Oh man, that is so good. It's official. Our 7th ever winner of What Is Wrong With You for the year. Our winner for the year 2023. He is the meat suitcase. He is the Robin Hood of ribeye, the Bandito of brisket.
That's how you know it's good, too. There's all kinds of different names.
Yeah, the nickname sets it over. Like, you know, Tailpipe Girl was incredible. But
yes.
The fact that she called herself Tailpipe Girl, that was the extra level. The fact that we got so many different nicknames.
Yeah, I had to trim for the sake of time. I had to cut the part in the audio where I referred to him as the salami and the Samsonite. So we had a lot of fun with that one, and I do think that one, when we look back, that will stand as a very worthy "What Is Wrong with You" champion.
What a battle! What a final two! A big congratulations on a runner-up finish to the fake firefighter, but our 2023 champion in "What Is Wrong with You" is the meat suitcase. And we want to give a huge thank you to our good friends at Top City Metal Supply, who have been with us throughout the majority of the year, sponsoring What Is Wrong with You every single day. And as you know, they cut the metal you need to your specifications, and that saves you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal at Top City Metal Supply, which you can find on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Really appreciate you guys for sponsoring What Is Wrong with You every day throughout the majority of 2023. We'll hang that one in the rafters. We'll take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we got some college hoops to preview. KU Wichita State coming up tomorrow in Kansas City. We'll break it down right after this on 580 Sports Talk. We've got a full round of 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, including Russell Wilson has spoken. And folks, let me tell you, does not make it look good for the Denver Broncos. Woof. That's what we call a tease in the business. We'll get to that coming up in headlines today, plus a lot of college football action. Memphis has reopened up a can on Iowa State, by the way.
Yeah, quick little 17-0 run out of the locker room.
Matt Campbell needs a timeout. Anyway, we'll get to that again coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Real quick, wanted to get to some college hoops, though. KU versus Wichita State coming up at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City tomorrow, 3 o'clock start time. Here's a little inside baseball for you. My New Year's commitment for this year is to stop being a complete idiot I was fully planning to go to the game. Going to go cover it. Covered KU basketball for years now. And yesterday afternoon, about 3:30 or so, I was logging online to fill out the media credential. You know what's unfortunate is I knew the credential closed, the application deadline closed yesterday. What I did not know is that it closed at noon yesterday.
Oh, tough.
Yeah, so I'll be watching on my couch like the rest of you.
Interesting that you needed to apply. When K-State was in Kansas City for the Wildcat Classic, and maybe it's just different, but that's a home game for K-State that they just play there. So your credential your credential gets you into Bramlage.
Yep.
Got you into the T-Mobile Center.
And generally, it's been that way for KU, too, because they play the game annually in the T-Mobile Center. This is a neutral site game. It's a non-home game. Apparently, for neither team, got to count it as a home game. So you had to apply through the T-Mobile Center, and yeah, I screwed up.
Oh, dear.
I felt very, very, very dumb. So I'll be watching the game, just not in the building. So we'll get to experience that together. This is a better Wichita State team. And I mean, you were at the Wildcat Classic. I mean, you saw they are improved from what they have been the last couple of years, but I still think they are a little bit and it's a very new team. There's like 3 guys back from last year or something.
Yeah, they got a lot of new faces.
And I think Paul Mills is a good coach. I think they've got some good talent, but they're still a ways away from being back to the top of the American Athletic Conference, I think. And we saw that in the game against K-State. And I think this is a game where a rested KU team, even with that short bench coming 8 days off of their last game, and they've gotten a little time off during that stretch too. I don't know that this is going to be a blowout. I think Wichita State is going to play hard. I think they're going to have probably a couple of runs in this game. I think KU is going to solidly win this contest, though. I just don't know. Again, when you're looking at, your best 5 versus your best 5, how many guys does Wichita State have that can match up with KU's top 5 right now?
I think Wichita State's got a couple of guys who can get you buckets. Xavier Bell, Harlan Beverly. I like a couple of their guys.
I like Bell's game a lot.
Yeah, I think they've got some good players. They're not a great shooting team. They haven't had a facilitator all year, somebody who can make the offense go for everybody. They did get Bijan Cortez, the former Oklahoma Sooner, eligible because of that NCAA ruling.
Yeah, they got him.
So he's eligible. They still don't have a facilitator, I regret to say. He's not going to be the cure for what's ailing Wichita State in that regard. Their big guys are fairly athletic, but I don't think they can do enough to really protect the rim. I think KU should be able to have a big advantage at the point. I think this could be a game where DeJuan Harris is really kind of able to dictate the pace, and this should be another big game for Hunter Dickinson. What I'm most interested to see for KU is we're coming off of the first good Nick Timberlake minutes of the season. Granted, they were against Yale, but they were genuinely good minutes. It looked like a player playing with some confidence again. Can he maintain that confidence? Can he continue to play at that level moving forward? Because if he can, that's a big, big plus for the Jayhawks.
Yale's not awful. It's not like you said, oh, yeah, he went out there and balled against North Carolina Central. He's back. Yale's they're just outside the top 100 in KenPom, so I'm hopeful that it's a sign of something. He just needs to make a couple of threes a game. Can you go 2 of 4 or 2 of 5 per game from 3 if you're Nick Timberlake? That's what KU needs. Space it out a little bit and give some kind of effort defensively and not get burned constantly. If you can do that, that's fine. And then if you assume Furphy is your next guy, your 6th man, okay, that's a good starting spot. And then you can get 5 to 8 minutes of Parker Brown, depending on foul trouble and how much Hunter Dickinson needs a rest or KJ Adams needs a rest. If you can do that, then this KU team is fine. And KU's already fine. They keep winning. They've won 7 in a row. They're 11-1, number 2 team in the country. All those things are good. You just need a little bit of something. And hopefully against a Wichita State team that's got some dudes, that is well coached, but isn't quite there yet. I hope this is the key year that they're able to get it done. I really do. That's coming up tomorrow, 3 o'clock start time at the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. And again, as I just found out this week, that is a neutral site game between KU and Wichita State.
Yeah, we had somebody ask who wears the home whites. Maybe nobody.
Oh, both teams in colored uniforms?
Maybe gray for KU and the yellow or the black for Wichita State.
Yeah, give me the black with the gold accents for Wichita State and the blue and with crimson accents for KU.
Yeah.
Both wear colored uniforms.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Like the USC-UCLA football game.
Do it.
We need more of that, especially for a neutral site game. We've got 1 hour left this year on 580 Sports Talk. That's next. 1 hour remains on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Brendan Dworzinski and Dan Lucero here with you. Our final hour of the day, of the week, and of the year. How about that? The next time we talk to you will be January 2nd of 2024. We've got New Year's Day off, so we hope you enjoy the long weekend, as we certainly will as well. But before we get there, we have plenty to get to on this final hour of the program today. We have our 580 Sports Talk headlines in just a moment. We'll take a look back on the year that was in sports in 2023, with a little bit of a look ahead to the future as well. Plus, our final thoughts on the Chiefs-Bengals game coming up this weekend. We would love to hear from you as well. Text line number, you know it, 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section as well. Our YouTube stream can be found. Just go to YouTube and search 580 Sports Talk. Our channel will be right there. Make sure you subscribe, and you can see a live stream edition of the show today. We'd love for you to come and hang out with us during our final hour of today. Of course, last hour, we named our What Is Wrong With You champion for the year, the meat suitcase, the Robin Hood of ribeye. All-time great story. We need to put it up in here. See if anyone noticed it. We'll just stick it into the tiles in the ceiling.
Yeah, I think we could probably do that.
I think we definitely can do that. All right. With that, though, let's get back to the sports. Let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. I am going to start with what the big news was earlier in the week when the Denver Broncos announced that they are benching Russell Wilson for the remainder of the season. Jarrett Stidham is going to start for the final two games for the Denver Broncos. Now, we had some conflicting reports initially about why this was the case. One source indicating, and that was Jordan Schultz of Bleacher Report, said that this was entirely about the money, and the Broncos were trying to avoid paying Russell Wilson his injury guarantee, didn't want to risk $37 million being guaranteed for him if he can't pass his next physical. They're already on the hook for enough money, don't want to be on the hook for more because they plan to go in a different direction. You also had Ian Rappaport, who from his sources has heard, no, this was all football. This was entirely football related. So as Dan pointed out on Wednesday's show, you can probably glean who the respective sources are, or at least what camps the respective sources come from for those two reporters. Well, let's get audio here. This is from Broncos media availability today in the locker room. Russell Wilson confirming that the Broncos approached him and asked, well, or told essentially, that if he did not change and renegotiate his contract on the fly after beating the Chiefs, they would bench him for the rest of the year. Here is former Broncos starting quarterback Russell Wilson.
There's been a lot of attention about the contract situation. Did they approach you or your agent in October regarding adjusting the contract, Russell?
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
Yeah, they just during the we beat the Chiefs. They came up to me during the bye week, and beginning of the bye week on Monday or Tuesday, and they told me that if I didn't change my contract, my injury guarantee, that I'd be I'd be benched for the rest of the year. And I think we had 9 games left or so. I was definitely disappointed about it. And it was a process throughout the whole week, for a whole bye week. And, we just came off beating the Chiefs, played a pretty good game against the Chiefs. We just came off of that. So I was excited, obviously, for us fighting for the playoffs and get on a hot streak. And, then NFLPA and NFL got involved or whatever, I think, but at some point. But
so that's the end of the clip. That's from Troy Rank, who covers the Broncos for Denver 7 TV in Denver. Also, I believe 104.3 The Fan, if I'm not mistaken.
That might be right, but yeah, most of Rank's works. That's Denver 7. That's the ABC affiliate, I believe.
So look, I know you like Russell Wilson to a different degree than I like or dislike Russell Wilson because he was the quarterback for your favorite team for a long time.
He's my favorite quarterback of all time. I don't mind saying that.
And I've never been like, oh man, I love that Russell Wilson. But I don't know how you can't feel bad for him in this. Like, he is not going to, at this point in his career and the way he's played the last couple of seasons, I think lead the Broncos to a Super Bowl. But he had been playing better. His numbers looked fine. He is certainly not the reason that the Broncos are not a playoff team this year, or at least he's down the list of things. And, yeah, man, hey, sorry you've got buyer's remorse, but you offered me that contract. You offered it to me. I'm not changing a damn thing.
No, I'm not giving up money you owe me.
No, and I do. I truly feel bad for him in this situation because I feel like the Broncos jerked him around. And as we talked about earlier today, we were actually talking about this just in the station because you and Britt, both Seahawks fans and fans of Russell Wilson for a long time. And I said that as much as Russell Wilson is not the guy he was, 5 years ago, and as much as Sean Payton is clearly a jerk, you could ask anyone, and I'm sure they'll say, oh yeah, no, total jerk. And I think all of that is true. And I think Sean Payton didn't exactly do a bright, shiny job of making this situation better. I think this falls on the Broncos organizationally for screwing this up. Like, you took a guy in Russell Wilson, who, as you have described for years, you don't run your offense. You run the Russell Wilson offense when he's your quarterback.
Yep.
Similarly, Sean Payton is not going to come in his first year with a quarterback who he's never worked with before and say, you know what? I'm going to change my entire philosophy. I'm going to totally change everything that I want to do, what I believe about offensive coaching, and suddenly change it to fit this guy. That's not what he is. And yet the Broncos, and I know that a lot of this really sprouted up because they whiffed trying to get Aaron Rodgers 2 years ago. I understand that. But you gave a ton of money and gave up a ton of capital to get Russell Wilson. Then you gave up capital and a ton of money to go get Sean Payton, two notoriously stubborn people.
Yes.
Locked them in a room together and said, now both of you play nice.
And here's the thing. Russell Wilson has been open about this, about wanting to be coached by Sean Payton.
Mm-hmm.
When he was still in Seattle, there were reports he wanted the ownership in Seattle to fire Pete Carroll and hire Sean Payton. Russell Wilson has always fancied himself as a quarterback who could have a career arc like Drew Brees. Undersized quarterback playing well into his 40s. That's who Russell Wilson sees himself as when he looks himself in the mirror as a player. And so he felt like Sean Payton, famously Drew Brees' head coach, would be the guy to bring that out of him. So Russell Wilson, I'm sure, was psyched the day the Broncos hired Sean Payton. And Sean Payton went about the business of undermining Russell Wilson from the very start of his time as the Broncos head coach. And not just undermining him, not just talking publicly, criticizing him publicly. He's going to stop kissing babies. He's going to stop acting like he's running for office. Ryan Clark of ESPN already did a really good job of deconstructing all of this. But the way that Sean Payton treated Russell Wilson this season, like multiple times screaming at his quarterback on the sideline. Do you see head coaches do that to their quarterbacks?
Never,
ever. You would never in 1,000 million years see Andy Reid do that to his starting quarterback, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Blaine Gabbert or you. He wouldn't do that to you because that's not how you treat the guy who's taking your snaps.
The closest we've seen to that in recent memory was earlier this year when Bill O'Brien freaked out at Mac Jones. But obviously, different level of player, Russell Wilson and Mac Jones. Also, as we have found out in the last 36 hours, and also there's some evidence, previous evidence as well of this, Bill O'Brien, not a great guy.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination.
So it's not just what's happening here. It's the season-long treatment. It's the season-long belittling and diminishing of an accomplished NFL player in Russell Wilson. And we can all look at his play and like the raw numbers, like go beyond the stuff that's on the back of the trading card. And the numbers don't paint a pretty picture of the player Russell Wilson is at this stage in his career. He is a declining player, as most players are in their mid-30s. But he did everything they asked him to do. They said, hey, we don't want your quarterback guru hanging around. We don't want Jake Heaps hanging around the practice facility. He sent Jake Heaps home. They said, we don't like the idea. We're not keen on the idea of you having your own office at Dove Valley at the team's training facility. He gave up the office. They told him, we're going to give you a new head coach. You're going to run a different offense. We're going to ask you to do different things. We're going to basically take games out of your hands. You watched the Denver Broncos this year. You watched a team where the coach, the play caller, who are the same guy, did not trust their quarterback. And he operated within that structure and remained a professional about it and put up numbers, raw numbers, that are fairly good. as many touchdown passes as Patrick Mahomes. Only 8 interceptions to those 26 touchdowns. He's over 3,000 yards. He's completed 2/3 of his passes. Diminished player from his prime? Absolutely. A bum? No. Sean Payton treated him like a bum from Jump Street, and they have treated him like a bum at the front office level throughout, and that's not acceptable. It doesn't matter. I know I read people all the time that say, well, he didn't make $37 million. Who cares? He comes out of it paid. He's not getting messed over. He got his money.
I hate that so much.
I do too, because that's the perspective of somebody who's never had a boss yank him around, who's never had a boss belittle them, who's never had a boss humiliate them in public, who's never had a boss threaten your job, threaten your money. And if you've never had that, good for you. And I hope that's something you never go through. But for anybody who has, you recognize that hurts no matter how much money's on the line.
And especially because, and this comes up with athletes all the time. Guys lose their job or they get cut or whatever. And, oh, well, he got this much money guaranteed. One, as we tell you on this show all the time, our money and their money is not, you don't compare them. It's just a completely different world. No one is spending several $billion and hours a year watching me host this radio show. Now, it would be cool if you wanted to subscribe to the YouTube.
Yes.
But that's not how that works.
If you would like to pay us $37 million a year, yes, that'd be awesome.
And the other thing, too, like Russell Wilson has worked for his entire life, and he's just the latest example of this. His entire life to be a professional athlete, has given up and sacrificed a lot, including potentially, depending on what source you look like, potentially his first marriage. Like, those things are hard. For one reason or another, pertaining to his football life, that was broken up. Like, you sacrifice a lot. You have to give everything. You cannot have a normal life and be a professional athlete. And he was good enough that he at least thought he might have a future in 2 different sports. Like, it sucks to then all of a sudden be told, hey, you know, after you dedicated your whole life, the first 33 years, 34 years, whatever it is, that you've been alive to perfecting your craft and taking care of your body and doing all these things and doing the charity work, whether it's real to you or it's just fake like everyone believes it is. Did you know you actually suck and you're actually garbage and you're not worth anything to me? Like, that's hard. That is not something anyone would want to do, no matter what the exact dollar figure looks like. And the point you made about how Sean Payton's jerked him around from the very beginning, this is more conspiratorial than it is based on evidence, but that makes me wonder if the Broncos knew this was going to be the end result from the very beginning. Like, Sean Payton clearly felt empowered by the Broncos organization to act like this from the jump street. That makes me think it was in the back of the mind of George Payton of, I know he's not got any personnel control anymore, but he is an advisor, John Elway, or what is the name? The Penner and Who group? Penner Walton group?
Walton Penner, yeah.
Yeah. That makes me wonder if they always knew this was a possibility. And if that's the case, why did you do this in the first place?
My final thought on Sean Payton is this. If you want to know what Sean Payton really thinks about labor, just go look at his Pro Football Reference page as a player, not as a coach. Go look at his Pro Football Reference page as a player. Sean Payton played 3 games as an NFL player in October of 1987. Hey, do you, by chance, remember what was going on in October of 1987 with regards to the NFL?
I do, and he was a spare bear.
It was player strike.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's a scab. Bottom line, that is how he got his football career started in the NFL, as a scab. And so his opinion on how you can treat labor probably stems a lot from what he thinks about labor. So that's what you need to know. Your understanding of Sean Payton can start from there. He was a scab.
So yeah, that's Russell Wilson confirming he was told, change your contract or sit, and good for him for saying I'll sit.
Yeah. It's amazing that, like, Russell Wilson is a pretty polarizing guy. There are a lot of people still that don't really like Russell Wilson. And I understand why there are people who don't like Russell Wilson, but the public sympathy on this is dramatically in Russell Wilson's favor.
Fully.
And that takes a special kind of person to have people feel sorry for Russell Wilson. And Sean Payton, you're that guy. You're that guy who can make people sympathetic to Russell Wilson. Good for you. My first headline, we'll go to the injury report for Chiefs Bengals this coming Sunday. Nobody ruled out for the Bengals. That means Jamar Chase, not ruled out. He was limited in practice the last 2 days. He is listed as questionable, so there is a chance that the Bengals star wide receiver can go. No injury designation for Cam Taylor-Britt. He's going to be activated off of IR. He missed the last 4 games. He missed the minimum coming off of injured reserve. He's going to be activated from IR, and he is going to play. Quarterback Jalen Davis is questionable for the Bengals. No designation for defensive end Cam Sample. Tight end Mitchell Wilcox. One to watch, halfback Joe Mixon. Limited today. Didn't show up on the injury report for Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe something happened at practice today, but he is listed as limited with an ankle. No injury designation for him, but hey, if he tweaked an ankle, if that flares up, he could be affected on Sunday. For the Chiefs, 2 players ruled out, Donovan Smith and Kadarius Toney. Neither practiced all week. Both are being listed as out. L'Jarius Sneed didn't practice all week, but he is not ruled out. He is being listed as questionable by the Chiefs this week. Maybe that's a bit of gamesmanship. We'll see. Matt Derrick suggested that's what it could be between Sneed and one side, Chase on the other, little bit of gamesmanship going on. But Sneed, despite not practicing all week, is questionable. Isaiah Pacheco, questionable. Came out of concussion protocol, was limited in practice today. He is questionable. So is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who missed the last 2 days of practice with an illness. Hasn't practiced since Wednesday. McCole Hardman is questionable. He was a full participant in practice all week coming off of the thumb injury. He would have to be activated from injured reserve for the Chiefs to be able to use him on Sunday. Everybody else should be good to go. Josh Williams, no longer designated, was full participant Thursday, Friday after he had a neck injury and was listed on the report on Wednesday. Jalen Watson's been back to practice in full. He'll be good to go. Trey Smith practiced in full today. He's good to go. That's a big deal. Nick Bolton, full participant all week. Mike Edwards, full participant all week. Trent McDuffie and Charles Omenihu the same. They are all good to go for Sunday.
That Sneed injury is the most important part of this matchup, I think, going into it, because even if Chase doesn't go for Cincinnati, you've got to be at full strength as best as you can to try to limit T. Higgins. I think Higgins has played a lot better in the second half of the year. If you don't have Sneed, I agree with Matt Derrick in full. That's going to make things a whole lot more challenging for the Chiefs in this matchup. And if you do end up with a game in which both Chase and Higgins can go, that makes it that much more tough, because I trust Trent McDuffie. After that, it certainly gets a little more shifty after that. By the way, this is just a real quick passing headline. Missouri has now dropped to just a 4.5-point underdog against Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. not going to play for the Buckeyes tonight.
Neither is their best linebacker either, whose name I'm spacing on. It's a very Ohio State linebacker last name.
We're not talking about Tough Borland, are we?
No, Tommy Eichenberg.
Tommy Eichenberg, yeah.
I know it was Tommy something. I couldn't come up with the last name. Yeah, Tommy Eichenberg. Also not on the depth chart for tonight's game, so that's 2 big misses for Ohio State.
I don't know about Eichenberg's status entering the week. I'm surprised that the spread moved a whole point with Harrison being. I figured he was out from the minute they said he wasn't practicing. I'm, in fact, shocked that he was even considering it. I'm surprised he didn't just straight up opt out. So that's something to keep an eye on for the action today in the Cotton Bowl. Next headline for me on today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Let's go to the world of Major League Baseball. A former potential Royals target is off the board. According to Jeff Passan of ESPN, right-hander Lucas Giolito and the Boston Red Sox are in agreement on a 2-year, $38.5 million contract that includes an opt-out after year 1. That is the first signing for the Red Sox this winter. By all accounts, and I mean seriously, like all accounts, Michael Wacha was a better pitcher than Lucas Giolito last year.
Yes.
Older, but a better pitcher.
Yes. Giolito gave up like 97 home runs. Like, he was very home run prone and walk prone last year. Still can get the strikeout, but there's a reason he went through 3 teams last year. 3
teams. That is a rarity. And especially for a guy who's got a pedigree like Lucas Giolito has. And yet the Royals got Michael Wacha for $6.5 million less over 2 years. And still a good payday for Wacha, 32 over 2 with a second-year opt-out. But The Red Sox had money to spend. There was just a story today that the Red Sox just might not spend at all this offseason because they want to run themselves like a small market team, which if I was a Red Sox fan, I would not be anymore. I guess you're hoping that your pitching development side of things, your pitching development and coaching will help get back what was at one point a Cy Young candidate a few years ago for Chicago, but I don't know about that payday.
Well, they need starting pitching in Boston, and they have money to burn. None of the big free agents have taken their money, and Boston has, it appears, remembered that they are a financial titan in baseball, or at least ought to act like one, and this is probably just the start for them. There is an opt-out on this deal. I think it's $18.5 million for the first year, and then an opt-out. So he could hit free agency at 30 if he does bounce back and have a big year. And if not, he's got 20 million more coming his way in 2025. So I actually like the Waka contract better than I like the Giolito contract.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely like it better. Without question about that. But that's another pitcher that is off the market, and now a large number of the biggest names out there are gone, but there are still plenty who are available. Royals, go find a bat. That's what we're asking for next. Go find us a Major League bat. Next headline for you.
All right, I'll do one more headline here. Last night in Boston, the Detroit Pistons matched the NBA record for the longest overall losing streak. Though they did fight valiantly, they led by 19 at the half over the Boston Celtics and managed to force overtime late, but ultimately would succumb in Boston last night as the Kristaps Porzingis show was too much for Detroit to overcome. Boston wins 128-122 in overtime. That's now 28 losses in a row for the Pistons. The single season record already belongs to Detroit, the single season losing streak record. It's 28 and counting. They have tied a record previously set by the Philadelphia 76ers for most losses total spanning the end of one season, the beginning of another. That is at 28. So Detroit will have a chance to take the NBA record all to themselves when they play their next game. They go up against the Toronto Raptors tomorrow night. That game is in Detroit. I put the Boston-Detroit. So I watched the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and after it was done, I noticed that the Celtics-Pistons game was on NBA TV, and I watched the end of it. Like, and I don't know what way I was rooting. Like,
wait. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. It was on NBA TV?
Yes.
I had to go find a stream from like realsportsinfo.web last night to try to watch this. I could have just turned on NBA TV.
Yeah, NBA TV.
Well, now I feel even dumber.
Yeah, so I was watching it like it was a playoff game, man, and I didn't care. Like, if the Pistons lost, it's kind of funny to see a losing streak continue. If Boston had lost, it would have been really funny because there'd been some like angsty Bill Simmons tweets. He would have done like an emergency podcast. Like, I will now light myself on fire.
But first, Pearl Jam.
Yeah, this is like the time that in Teen Wolf when this thing happened. Anyway, this is like the scene in Rounders when they lose in poker. House, your thoughts?
Up next, Cousin Sal.
So it would have been an amusing outcome either way, but I dialed into the whole game. And I'll say this for Detroit, like, they played hard. They were rebounding their butts off. They were defending hard. They just they have two good basketball players. On the floor at any given time, they can only have two good players. Everybody else is a waste of space. Like, Alec Burks stinks. Isaiah Livers stinks. James Wiseman, unplayable. They just got a bunch of bums. They got a bunch of guys who can't really play basketball. The young guy, Jaden Ivey, he's not real good.
At least he tries.
Yeah, like, they were all trying. I bet they beat Toronto at home on Saturday. I kind of hope they do, because if they don't, they go on the road for their next four. They got to play Denver. I'm going to tell you this. I don't want them to still have the losing streak going when they come to Denver.
No,
I don't want that pressure.
That's fair.
I don't want that pressure on my favorite team. So, 28 in a row, NBA history last night in Boston.
I was rooting for the Pistons. I thought it was going to be so funny if the Celtics lost. I have no positive feelings about the Boston Celtics, so it would have been very, very funny if they had lost.
It would have. The funniest thing ended up being the young fan who had the Tingus Pingus for the Wingus sign in the stands. There's the old I think it's actually Hollywood actor Michael Rappaport screaming at the TV when the Knicks drafted Porzingis. Who is Tingus Bengus? I never heard of Lativia.
God, he is so obnoxious. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, it's our final show of 2023, and we'll take an opportunity to look back on the year that was in the world of sports. That's up next on 580 Sports Talk. .533 on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thanks for spending the final 580 Sports Talk of 2023 with us here today. We're back on Tuesday next week, off Monday for the first day of the new year, but we'll join you coming up on Tuesday next week. The year's coming to a close. New Year's Eve on Sunday, New Year's Day on Monday, which makes this a perfect opportunity to look back on the year that was in the world of sports. A lot has happened locally. A lot has happened nationally. So why don't we begin with a couple local stories, shall we? Some things that meant a lot for one reason or another locally. I will just get to it right away. The Kansas City Chiefs tight end is dating the most famous woman on earth.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That's like the biggest pop culture story in America this year, which is crazy.
It might be the biggest pop culture story of 2023 is Taylor Swift's relationship status. And she's dating, like, not the quarterback, the tight end. Like, with the glamour position, the ultimate glamour position in sports is quarterback, right? Taylor Swift's not dating a quarterback. She's dating a tight end.
Yep.
Like a Hall of Fame tight end, but still a tight end.
Tight end.
Dating a tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, at the end of the Scott Pioli error, and that's not a
nice.
I'm not misspeaking there. That was on purpose. The end of the Scott Pioli error in Kansas City. I wonder how Chiefs fans would have reacted to being told, you are going to hire a future Hall of Fame coach. You are going to draft a future Hall of Fame quarterback who might be one of the best to ever do it. And you are going to go from what you are right now, which is a laughingstock, like a broken franchise from top to bottom, to one of the model franchises. It's going to happen essentially overnight. You're going to win Super Bowls, plural. And one of your players is going to date the most famous woman in the world. Your franchise, the team you love, is going to belong to such a wide swath of people not just because of winning, but because of their pop cultural impact. That's a wild thing. To be a fan of a team that sort of transcends their sport. Like if you root for the Milwaukee Bucks, like even a recent championship team, that's not something you experience.
No.
Like your team doesn't, your grandma who doesn't follow sports doesn't have an opinion about your favorite team if your favorite team is the Toronto Blue Jays.
No.
But the Chiefs sort of transcended that this year. And it started, of course, back in February when they won another championship. Yeah, that happened this year. The Chiefs were the world champions of this year. As low as it feels right now, relatively, for the Chiefs, this is a championship winning year for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
They started the year as champions. They ended as in a really interesting space as a wounded champion, as a fallen champion, trying to see if they can muster up something to try and defend their crown come January.
Chiefs also, of course, were the host city, Kansas City was, for the draft this year. Got to draft a K-State guy, a Kansas City native as the final pick of the first round. That was obviously a cool moment for that team. Other local stories that pop into mind, Bobby Witt Jr. becoming what we thought Bobby Witt Jr. would become in the second half of the season.
A 30 for 30 star, like a bona fide franchise player for the Royals. And that was exciting, even if precious little else was, as the Royals set a franchise loss record in the process. But ended the year on a high note, spending some money and giving a little bit of legitimate optimism for 2024. In the state of Kansas, I think you could say that the biggest sports story of the year was Jerome Tang transforming Kansas State basketball and doing what he did, taking that team to the Elite Eight. Marquise Noel becoming something of a household name in college basketball circles, making the back page of the New York tabloid sports sections for his performance in the East Regional at Madison Square Garden. And Jerome Tang revitalizing that program where there had been so much apathy starting to set in towards the end of the Bruce Weber era. And now you have excitement. Now you have energy. And the way that Jerome Tang has gone about it in his own way has been really, really fun to follow.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was just an incredible run. We ended up, if you just want to look at the NCAA tournament in and of itself, I'll say March Madness, not just the one tournament, because we got a couple of star-making performances in the women's tournament as well. A lot of people who follow sports already knew who Caitlin Clark was, and then the NCAA tournament happened, and suddenly the most watched athlete on earth for about 2 weeks was a women's basketball player from Des Moines, Iowa. That was incredible. And then didn't even win because LSU also had 4 other players who had superstar potential on their team.
It was a huge year, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but
you're fine.
It was a huge year for women's sports.
Yeah, it was.
Huge year for women's sports. Increased ratings all across the board. 90,000 plus to see a volleyball match in Lincoln. Volleyball ratings going through the roof, conference networks making a point to show more volleyball, ESPN making a point to show more volleyball, more women's basketball, increased ratings for the WNBA. There was always an audience for this stuff.
KU won the women's NIT.
Yes. And got a really great crowd for the championship game. K-State women are a top 15 team in the country, borderline top 10 team in the country right now with a win over Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
So, big year for women's sports, both locally and I think on a national scale as well. And I have to imagine that if you are a woman or if you are raising a woman yourself, one maybe who is into sports, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's incredibly cool. And locally, I'll give you one more that is, KU football is a meaningful one. KU football just won a bowl game, which has not happened in a long time. That's a big story. That all happened in the year 2023. And from the basketball side of things, Jalen Wilson being a first-team consensus All-American was a big deal for KU basketball. You want to talk about K-State again? Both Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson's story. They were both third-team All-Americans, I believe, consensusly. So just a great year for local stories, for local athletes. Had a great year for local athletes in Topeka and in our surrounding area as well. Had a team from the city play for a state championship in football. Had another team that is in our surrounding area down in Linden, won a state title in football. The Washburn Rural girls played for a state title. The Silver Lake girls played in a state semifinal. I know I'm missing someone in there as well.
So like girls golf state champion.
So
I mean,
yep.
if we ran down all the
Hating girls.
Yep. If we ran down all the state champions, we'd run out of time on the show. There was a great year prep wise. Seaman volleyball, state championship year for them.
Seaman volleyball. There you go.
Their first one ever. Washburn women's soccer going to the national championship game this year was another special feat.
Nationally, lots of good ones, obviously, and we'll run through a few of them here. It's amazing this happened within this year, and it's been almost exactly a year since this happened. It'll take 1, 2, 3. In 4 days, it will be exactly 1 year since this happened. Damar Hamlin died on TV, on ESPN, in one of the most hyped up games of the NFL season. A man on a routine tackle had a freak hit to the side of his chest and died on TV with millions and millions of people watching on the most watched sports network in the world, and then was revived on the field during not the Super Bowl in terms of the biggest show in the United States, but like, we love football in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. It is as American as anything else in the year 2023. And we nearly saw someone lose their life on a play in a game. And the heroic work to save his life, I mean, it goes beyond words and superlatives. But that happened this year. We watched the guy die during an NFL game. Like, the fact that he is alive is miraculous. And again, a credit to the people who saved his life on the field in Cincinnati at the University of Cincinnati Hospital. To then be able to work out again, all the money that he and his story raised for charity, to the fact that he still was on the team at the start of the year and has played in 5 NFL games this season and has been involved, not just like, oh yeah, Damar, you stand over there. No, he's played. He's been on the field playing, is one of the most remarkable things I can imagine.
Yeah, it truly incredible. I think we will all remember what we were doing. We will remember watching that game and how that felt to watch that and think, did we just watch somebody die? Like, did we just see that happen? And to then see that Damar Hamlin is able to resume his life is, I mean, triumph of medicine, a triumph of the human spirit, all of those things. That was one of the more indelible images, certainly, of 2023. There were a lot of pretty cool things that happened this year. Certainly, it was a year for long-suffering professional franchises. The Texas Rangers, 63 seasons in existence, finally become world champions this past year. Had been in Texas since 1972, had been founded as the Washington Senators in 1961, had some close calls, were one strike away 12 years ago on 2 separate occasions and couldn't finish the deal against the Cardinals, ended up losing that 2011 World Series. They finally win it. They do it in dominant fashion. They do it with a, by and large, pretty likable team, some new stars created in Adolis Garcia and the like. The Rangers finally get over that hump and win their first title. And while I'm at it, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the Denver Nuggets, 56 seasons in Denver before finally winning their first NBA championship, and doing it in dominant fashion and doing it in a way that created a new superstar in Nikola Jokic, who has been embraced for not just his greatness as a basketball player, but the work-life balance, let's call it, that he displays on a regular basis. One of the most likable superstars in professional sports. Those 2 franchises showing that if you wait long enough, amazing things can indeed happen.
Other ones that I think of that were big stories this year, Tom Brady retired.
Yeah.
That was this year. He retired for good. One of the coolest moments of the entire year was the final at-bat of the World Baseball Classic, which is, I believe, the most watched World Baseball Classic we've had yet.
Correct. You
got Team USA versus Team Japan in the final, and you got teammates facing each other. The 2 best players, well, Trout's era maybe has gone away because he's been injured so much and his team has never won anything, but you had teammates, Mike Trout versus Shohei Ohtani at the plate and on the mound for the final at-bat. That was unbelievable.
An absolutely riveting at-bat. Like, you can't, sports drama doesn't get any better than that. And the pitch that Ohtani threw to strike out Trout on the 3-2 count, I mean, you could not have scripted it any better. And you talk about a sporting event, the World Baseball Classic, that will grow in stature because that we had that moment. That might have been my favorite individual moment outside of my favorite basketball team finally winning a championship of the year.
A couple notable players, star players finding new homes. Lionel Messi came to the United States.
Yes.
I hope if you want to go see him play Sporting Kansas City this year, I hope you have a house you can sell to afford tickets.
Hope you got some money in the piggy bank.
The Packers traded Aaron Rodgers, and then he played 4 snaps with the Jets and got hurt. That was quite a saga this year.
Shohei Ohtani is going to play for a real Major League Baseball team.
Yeah.
And not the Ponzi scheme going on in the other part of the city of Los Angeles. He's going to play for the Dodgers. He's not going to pitch next year, but he's going to hit, and he's really good at that. Remember, he led the American League in home runs and slugging percentage this year.
Yep.
And now he joins the lineup with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman.
Dame got traded in the NBA as well. Yeah, I mean, you can say this every year. I'd be remiss. One other moment I want to give you. Fairleigh Dickinson won in NCAA tournament.
Yeah, we had a 16 beat a 1.
Yeah. That was
sick. Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue. It was a great, riveting NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
UConn, a deserving champion, a dominant champion on that side. The Vegas Golden Knights won their first ever Stanley Cup. So speaking of first-time champions, we mentioned them as well. We had a college football season. That might be our last great college football season. Conferences are going to look dramatically different. The Big 12 went from 14 to 12 to 16 in one fell swoop, and we'll be adding teams from the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
We had the Coach Prime saga, which everybody got to be right about. I think that's why people really liked what happened with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders at Colorado, because everybody had a chance to be correct. And I bet you next year it's the same thing. Everybody's take will have a turn being absolutely right about what that all is. It was a memorable year in sports, no doubt about it.
Real quick before we get to commercial, because I know we're up against one. On Tuesday, when we come back, we will do bold predictions for 2024. We'll do that on Tuesday next week. Real quick, your favorite moment for you personally in sports this year?
A satisfied Nikola Jokic telling Lisa Salters, the job is done, now we can go home.
KU football won a bowl game. Jason Bean won a bowl game. That's got to be it. Also, Jordan Love being actually good. That's felt pretty good, too. We have to get to another break. When we come back, some final thoughts on Chiefs-Bengals. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan with you, wrapping up 580 Sports Talk on this Friday afternoon. I was reading through the Ringer's list of their favorite stories in the sports year, and one of them was the unsatisfying ending to Super Bowl 57. I'm going to be as blunt as I can be about this and try to keep it without cursing or anything like that. If you are still whining about a blatant hold, you're a loser.
Yeah.
You're a loser.
Not even James Bradbury was whining about it after the game.
He admitted to it.
Yeah.
He was like, yes, I did hold him.
I held him.
Stop crying.
That's not how a game should be decided.
Get over yourself. Yeah, it should be decided by you making a good play and not a bad one. Sorry, he made a bad one.
That was pretty cool. Because when the Chiefs won Super Bowl 54, I had just met my wife, so we didn't watch the game together. But I got to watch that one with her, and he gave me a big hug when Butker's kick went through the uprights.
That's cool.
That felt pretty cool. So that will stand out for me as well. Then I got to hug her when my favorite team won the NBA championship in the summer.
How about that?
Yeah.
The Chiefs will hopefully be doing some celebratory hugging this weekend. They take on the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. I guess it's Stockholm syndrome at this point. Like, I still believe that the Chiefs are good. I believe that they're not going to hurt me. Like, I think they're a better team than Cincinnati is. They've got a better quarterback. I think Zach Taylor, has done enough, even if he's not a great coach, to prove that he at least belongs as a head coach, which is more than I ever thought I could say about Zach Taylor. But their quarterback is Jake Browning, and they might not have a full-strength Joe Mixon. And I still think Chiefs group is a better group. But how do you trust them? And that's more rhetorical than anything. Like, what have the Chiefs done in the last half a season that has given you any reason to trust them?
Yeah, and that's where I'm at, too. Like, I've picked the Chiefs to win every week this year. Like, I didn't think they were going to go 17-0, but as I've gone into every matchup this year for varying reasons, I have felt like, the way this team is playing, the way this other team is playing, it makes sense to me that the Chiefs will win this game. Like, it makes sense to me that the Chiefs are going to find a way to win this game. And I still think that. Like, I still think on paper, like, the Chiefs should find a way to win on Sunday, but it gets harder and harder to trust and believe that they're going to find a way, because as we talked about earlier this week, when we reconvened on Wednesday, I don't think the Chiefs believe it right now, that no matter what, they are going to find a way to win. I just think they have to embrace a defense first identity, let the defense do some work, play a little bit more ball control on offense, get into that rhythm with the run game, pave a Cincinnati defense that's not really good against the run, missing DJ Reader, and go from there, because I do feel like if the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, that's the key. That's been the thing that would have flipped maybe all of their losses to wins this year. If they just took better care of the dang football, if they do that again on Sunday, they can win.
Yeah, they absolutely can win. That 6.5 on the line is just so... It's one of those things that kind of taunts you, because you think the only reason why they're setting the line here is because the bookmakers believe that some people think the Chiefs are going to win by that much. But if you followed this team, why would you think that?
Yeah.
Why would you believe that? It's weird. It feels wrong. I would not bet on that. If I was going to bet on that game at all, I would certainly take the 6.5 that the Bengals are getting in that game. But if the Chiefs came out and they win the game 28-12, then yeah, I'm going to feel great about it. I just don't have any reason to believe that they're capable of doing that right now. We have to get to one final timeout. The final words up next on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk with the final word of 2023, Dan Lucero.
It was a heck of a 2023. It was a heck of a 2023 for us here at 580 Sports Talk, and we're really excited about what 2024 is going to bring for us. And we would like for you to be around with us when 2024 begins. So I wish all of you a very happy New Year's celebration, but also a very safe one. Make good decisions out there. Call a designated driver if you need one. Don't travel if you don't have to. And be safe out there. But have fun, celebrate. If you had a rough 2023, then I hope 2024 is a better year for you. If you had a great 2023, let's build on that and have an even better year this next year. But Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Without you guys, there is no us. So thank you for rocking with us in 2023, and we'll talk to you in 2024.
Yeah, it's been quite a year for us here on 580 Sports Talk. We went from just Dan and I on the show for 3 hours at the start of the year with a 4-man crew, down to 3, the old group together. We said goodbye to Jake last week, and well, we end the year just the 2 of us. But we've got some fun stuff in the works for 2024. I will leave it at that. We'll tell you guys more about it once the new year begins. But we thank you so much for all the time you spend hanging out with us, interacting with us, text line, YouTube comments after the show. Nice emails, texts you guys have sent us. We really do appreciate it over time. We're looking forward to 2024. We thank you again for being a part of the show and hope you'll stick around for what should be a big, big year for us here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. We are off until Tuesday next week. We will reconvene with you on January 2nd. We'll have a lot to get to. Chiefs, college basketball, college football, and more. So until then, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Thank you for listening to this edition of 580 Sports Talk.